Hello and welcome back to the Arc of E podcast. My name is Noah.
And my name is Gavin.
And we're the Blanchard brothers back with your 2x2 retro review for the month of March 2021.
Gonna march right in the bedroom with lots of laughs.
We're gonna march left,
Right.
left, right, left.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do.
You know why, Noah? Because life in the streets, it's a mystery.
It ain't easy. And yes, it's also a mystery. And that's how we're living. Okay.
Yeah. Random.
What if I just started singing at the top of every episode?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I would more or less downloads? More or less traffic on the feed?
I don't know. You might be the songbird of your generation. You just don't know it.
Maybe.
Maybe you auto-tune it. Maybe you tweak it in post-production. Make it sound real dope.
No, I know what y'all are thinking. This ain't no Janet Jackson shit. We'll get into all of that and much more. But yeah, we're going to take a trip up to Maine. And we're going
to
also take a trip to... it's Fort Jackson, but...
Nondescript. Are they in Washington?
I thought it was supposed to be like Michigan or something. I didn't...
Yeah, maybe.
A lot of them are from Detroit, right?
I believe so.
So, yeah, I think it's Michigan. And what's the team... We'll get into that. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe that'll unlock the movie for me. We'll talk about it. I don't know. Glad you suggested it. Okay.
Good.
So, yeah, 2x2 retro review. We're talking in the bedroom and Renaissance Man, as promised. But before that, we have watched a few things in the interim. I guess to stay somewhat current, we should probably talk about Coming to America.
The number two.
And the second in, I don't think it's going to be a series.
I hope not.
The long-awaited, maybe not entirely needed, but for me, welcome follow-up to Coming to America. We'll talk about that for a little bit. Give our thoughts on WandaVision, if anybody cares. I feel like we have totally missed that conversation. We haven't really been following it week to week, but I know you binged and caught up. I've been watching it week to week. And so we'll chat about that for a bit, and then we'll get into the 2x2.
That works for me.
So, before either of those, any other random watches or anything you want to mention? Any thoughts, any questions, comments, or concerns?
So we're getting another stimulus, right?
It was passed today.
I know. For posterity's sake, I have to say that.
It was passed, and then it's on his desk tonight. Yeah. As we're recording this is what, the 10th? Mm-hmm. This is also reminding me there's a South Park special, another new 1 hour special that I'm not watching right now. So I think I have to wait till it's on HBO Max tomorrow because I don't know if there'll be a cable rerun before my bedtime.
Oh, okay.
We watched a new Prime original.
Yes.
Which they bought. This was going to go to theaters, but we watched Coming to America. You told me off, Mike, you didn't refresh, didn't rewatch. I wonder if that made it play better or not. What did you think overall?
I maybe, you know what? Maybe had I not done that, since I didn't, I maybe gave it a little bit higher and liked it a little bit more. I enjoyed it just because it was like everybody from that movie, with the exception of Eric LaSalle, is in this movie.
Yeah, virtually everybody is back.
They got James Earl Jones of all people.
Exactly. And then some nice additions as well. Yeah. Tracy Morgan, Leslie Jones knocking it out of the park. Who's the lead, the new son?
I have no idea.
He was in Sorry to Bother You.
That's right, he was.
Remember they have the nice fight?
Yeah.
In front of the office building, one of my favorite scenes.
I remember that.
Oh my God, what's his name? Working on it now. Love the Dead Air. Love it, brother.
Yeah.
Jermaine Fowler.
Okay, what else has he been in?
Sorry to Bother You, as I just mentioned. BoJack Horseman. He was just in Judas and the Black Messiah.
Okay, I was going to say, I just saw him in there.
I think he had like a line or two.
Is he not the one that gets...
He's Mark Clark. Is he the one that gets gunned down and then they go visit his mother?
Either he gets gunned down in that, or he's the one who's like, no, my buddy was just alive. Like, what happened to him? He got shot in the hospital, but like...
Yeah,
it's one of the two. He either is the one that goes to the hospital...
We got like 5 days left. Yeah. If you're listening to this, you probably have like 2 or 3 days left to watch Judas and the Black Messiah, if you have not already. And then it's leaving HBO.
Dude, it was so weird. I rode by the Beacon the other day, last weekend, and to like see movies I've already watched, like on posters in the movie theaters. I have to remind myself that they're supposed to be in theaters and not like just available for me.
Right. You know Jermaine Fowler, the son Coming to America, from Crashing, because I know you love Crashing. He played Russell
the son of Terrence Howard. I don't know who he would have been in there.
On Crashing?
Crashing.
The Pete Holmes show?
I've never seen Pete Holmes Crashing. I thought you were talking about the movie Crashing.
You love...
Crashing.
Oh, God. A weird...
The Academy Award-winning Crashing. Crashing.
Crash. And you said Lawrence Fishburne?
No.
What are you
Terrence Howard. Sorry.
Terrence Howard? What? Okay. We're so
It's
lost.
Pete Holmes Crashing is what you're talking about.
Yeah. I thought you were a big Pete Holmes fan, so
I love Pete Holmes.
But you haven't watched his show.
No, not yet. Okay. I keep forgetting. I mean, listen. If
keep forgetting
it was,
that it exists.
Listen, if HBO
Dude, it's
knew
your boy Apatow. You're in love with him now after King of Staten Island.
If HBO
you love him now.
knew me,
he's your boy.
If they got the algorithm right, they would have had Crashing up. And I don't search. I look at what's available to me when I get on the app and I go for it.
I'm just trying to tell you what I thought you might know this guy from.
Okay.
I'm going with Sorry to Bother You. That's where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember him in that.
Anything else we have?
Oh, any thoughts on the movie?
It was funny. It wasn't like, again, maybe if I'd have watched the original again, I would have been like, oh, this is terrible. Because that's what I saw from like a lot of people's reaction on Instagram was like, okay, it's all right. It's not the best. And I try not to let that color my opinion of it going in, but I do appreciate how they kind of integrated like a key plot point of the story with like footage from the original. And
doing the like de-aging thing as well, like putting them back in there, which was really well done. All of that stuff. So we watched literally a few days before because it's on Prime as well.
Yeah.
I love when they actually get it right. Again, why we couldn't have all the Karate Kid movies up when Cobra Kai new season drops.
Like licensing.
I know, but I'm saying I don't know why they can't just get it together. You know,
who knows?
Somebody's not signing on the right dotted line.
Probably.
Okay. But so it was up. Veronica had never seen it, and I hadn't seen it at least like 10 years. So throw it on. Again, like a lot of movies from that era and a lot of John Landis comedies in general, I was like, this shit's way longer than I remember it being. But it has enough, like, just straight up classic bits in it that have you dying that, like, it strings it together. And Coming to America, the sequel now, it's it's what, 33 years later or whatever? It's pretty much just like, hey, let's just kind of gently remind you of the original and the stuff you liked about it. We'll do riffs on those bits. We'll bring in some new people. We'll have some musical guests. It's going to be a fun time. Everybody's going to be back. And that's the general vibe I got from it. We didn't talk about Wesley Snipes. Excuse me. That's the best edition where I was just like, dude, come on. It's essentially the same crew as Dolomite Is My Name, which I totally enjoyed. Yeah. Everybody's kind of back, plus all the Coming to America people, obviously. And this is another Craig Brewer movie. I like Craig Brewer. Love Hustle and Flow. Love Black Snake Moan. Yeah. Love what he's doing now. But you know what this felt like to me? And people are going to be like, oh, he's trashing it. I mean, this is the biggest compliment. This felt like Coming to America, directed by Kevin Smith. Okay. This had the feel to me of late period Kevin Smith. Okay.
Just like getting let's check in.
Get the band back together. Yeah. We're not trying for gold here. We're not trying to knock it out of the park and like reinvent the wheel. It's a sequel to a movie many years removed.
Which I did appreciate that they commented on that. Like, why Hollywood? Well, they all they do this, they do that.
It's on the nose, but I love it. Anyways, it was pleasant. Literally, it finished. And my only disappointment, because I did not realize it going in, I thought we were getting an R-rated comedy. Right. And I thought, oh, well, we can take all of the language and stuff from the original and the raunch and like turn it up and like, have it be a little crazier. And like all Eddie Murphy products from the last several years, it's like, it's got to kind of be family oriented at the end of the day. Like his daughter's in it, like, and obviously it's like a family affair, like just getting this whole crew of people back together and everything. And I liked that played for me. It didn't like bother me overall. That was my one. I did not realize that until I started the movie. I was like, me too. It's PG-13.
Yeah, that was.
How did I miss that in all the ads and stuff?
Which they do enough to serve, because like the whole royal penis is clean thing, they do that with Leslie Jones, and it's some of it's kind of
versions and the reworks of like
I can appreciate that.
One of my favorite bits though was the fact that Wesley Snipes' character comes in and is pissed off because of what you did to my sister.
Yeah.
And it's the woman from the first movie,
right,
who he left hopping and barking like a dog.
Yeah.
That was probably the best like tag up on a bit where I was just like, I would have never thought to bring that woman back and have it still going, but that really
is that is how you bring in the crucial like foil plot character of like,
yes.
This is what forces him into action. Is like, oh yeah, it's her brother.
Yeah.
He's pissed at you for that. Like, you should have buried her.
And I mean, we don't have to like litigate the whole thing. There was and I watched it twice, literally back to back, essentially, because Brendan wanted to watch it the next day, and I didn't want to tell him that like, hey, I've already seen it. I didn't want to color his experience. So we just watched it, and then he was like not really feeling it or into it. He was like, I don't really think it's that funny, blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't know, dude. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. They looked like they were having fun. I had goodwill towards it. It was nice. My only real complaints, not enough Eddie Murphy. Yeah. Because we spent the time on like basically doing the original movie again, but with his son. I like Jermaine Fowler. I think he's good in this movie. But it was a little weird that like they built up the whole narrative of he has 3 daughters and like maybe one of them should actually take the throne and maybe he should be like more like he wanted his father to be in the original movie and like, you know, change his ways, etc. Why is he so staunch now and just like play, you know, all of that stuff. But then him having to come to that realization, etc. All that stuff plays. But part of me was like, what did we need the son character? Like, we could still introduce him, but like, shouldn't it be a little bit more about like the eldest daughter and like eventually realizing that like she should run this thing? And they still give you that ending anyways. But like, I did feel like, I don't know, maybe time would have been better served if like we had a little more Eddie Murphy and a little less of the son in general. That was my only real critique. Nice seeing In Vogue and Salt and Pepper.
Yeah.
And Gladys Knight.
Of course.
Yeah.
I do like at the end that he brought out sexual chocolate.
Oh, that was great.
That was amazing. Yeah. I do like that it's like still at this age, he's like, I'm going to fucking put on makeup. I'm going to wear different prosthetics and I'm going to be these people.
The barbershop scene still totally worked. Yeah.
Good job. I appreciate Arsenio. He was great.
Yeah. No.
Doing the same thing. I enjoyed it.
I had a fun time with it.
Yeah. I can't say a bad thing about it.
I guess the people who are like really disappointed or like have their guns out for it were just like expecting more. But again, like I said, and I mean that as a compliment, I was like, you know, a new Kevin Smith one comes out, and I'm just like, I'm just glad you're still making movies, dude. I just love you. I'm gonna like it. It's gonna be whatever. Like, it's good. It's cool. So we give it a soft thumbs up.
Yeah,
like,
I'll definitely.
And guess what? If you have Prime, it's free. So you know, there's that. That is a thing. WandaVision. It's over. It's done with. I don't know that we're getting a season 2.
I don't know. It
wouldn't really make any sense.
2.
What'd you think? Pros, cons, happy with it overall?
I enjoyed it. If this is going to be, I can appreciate that now, maybe in this second phase. And I've seen the lineup stuff. I've seen the trailer and mock-ups and stuff. I will always enjoy that the first round of all this was, because I mean, I don't know about you, dude. I'll admit, I saw every one of the first round of Avengers things and Avengers at least 4 or 5 times in the theaters when they were coming out, because it was just so, it was there. And I would have loved to have had a Disney Plus to compete with Netflix then, right after the merger happened, to be able to go and watch them at home streaming, to the point that like WandaVision finished and I watched Age of Ultron again because it's the one I saw the least, because by that time it was like, God, I got so much. I got a new Spider-Man thing. I got, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy. I got all this stuff going on. So I appreciate something like this that can give me a peek back into that world post what's happened with it, with the whole death of Tony Stark, whatever.
Right.
And having this show that kind of can bridge that gap, bring in characters from other properties like Thor and, you know, I guess you don't want to call it Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but, you know, bringing back in Sword, that angle, all that, bringing in the Captain Marvel of it all, and kind of like having something just not insanely long, because if you're telling me anything with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC was going to have anything to do with what movies I was watching, I checked out, because I can't do 24 episodes, hour-long episodes of this thing to try and push it along.
Right.
But a 10-episode arc on a streaming service,
that essentially boils down to like a 4.5 hour movie, maybe.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I mean that works
Somewhere
for me.
in there.
You know, it's enough that like I appreciate what they're doing because I mean, just like we talked about with the Petra of it all, like being like, oh yeah, the resurrected version of your brother is not kick-ass. It's it's the one we love from X-Men.
Right.
Because now if somehow that Quicksilver version we get in the future, everybody who's working at Disney is going to want to do their own Fox's X-Men Time in a Bottle sequence. And it'd be interesting to see what that's like. But overall, I can appreciate, I guess she's still in the house. Is she still just there? Like, I don't know. We don't really get like a huge ending. But like...
Well, she's in the, what do they call it? I haven't watched Doctor Strange in a bit. She's on the astral plane, though.
Right.
She's, like, separated from her body.
Right. Well, that's what I heard. This was going to set up Multiverse of Madness. So,
yeah. Which is,
I guess the Vision is now...
honestly, maybe the most excited about that I've been about a Marvel property in quite a while.
Yeah.
Just the fact that Sam Raimi is...
Oh, yeah.
Gonna be back and doing weird shit with a giant budget. That's very exciting to me.
Yeah, I'm on board.
But I enjoyed it. Yeah, pretty much ended up feeling the same way I kind of told you initially. I was like emphatically in love with the first 3 episodes for how weird and subversive they were for a Marvel thing.
Right.
Like, not that weird, but I felt like it was really doing something different. And then as it gradually kind of opened up and revealed itself to be like, oh, but this is okay. This is, what I expect from like a big Marvel movie, etc. And we inevitably kind of build to another big CGI climax and everything. But I felt like it's still, given the extended runtime, we got a lot more character depth and people who honestly desperately needed it. And I'm like, if that's the thing that's most exciting about the TV shows to me at this point is like when we start getting into the movies where 7 or 8 of these guys, especially like the ones we just went through, Infinity War and Endgame, where it's like we got like 25 different guys we're juggling at any given time, and everybody's got to get their little moment and all of that. You're of course banking on like, well, everybody has all these built up things from their solo movies that they're bringing to the table emotionally, etc., and now you're playing it out with them all. But these two desperately needed it. And in the same way that I honestly feel like at this point, as they're going to move into whatever the next phase is, Falcon and Winter Soldier do as well. Yeah. So I'm very pumped for that. It starts in like a week?
I thought is it not this Friday or is it next Friday?
I think it's a week off. Okay. And then this coming Friday. So, yeah, I feel like they have maybe some sort of weird... Maybe it's like a behind the scenes that something drops this weekend in between. But yeah, I don't think it starts this weekend. So...
Yeah, I mean,
I enjoyed it, and ultimately there was a lot of stuff I loved and liked along the way, but it was more of just like, oh, okay, well, I guess we always have to kind of build towards a big fight scene, and then kind of settling things back in. And given the nature of like how this ends and wraps up, it's like, okay, well, I guess I see some setup and some implications for like stuff they might take this to in the future. But I think some people were looking for this to like maybe kick the ball a little further down the lane in terms of like moving the overall story forward. But I liked that literally the show itself is like self-contained.
Yeah.
And I like that it essentially works out where it's like, did we need this? No, but I'm really glad we got it. Like,
you know what? That would be my only point of contention is I don't know when these were done and in the can ready to roll. And I know they were pushed.
It was supposed to be Black Widow, from my understanding. Supposed to be Black Widow was next. Of course, that was delayed.
Right.
Then Falcon and Winter Soldier. Then, I think, WandaVision. And then reverse Loki. Order. And then Loki. Yes.
Right. And my only thing is, like, I get if you're trying to release them in a certain way to, like, make sense of your next one to come back out. We all know that unless something crazy happens, the Black Widow movie is inconsequential.
I don't understand how that has anything to do with their plans or why it needed to come out in a particular order.
The only thing is, unless
it's a multiverse
thing, and like somehow at the last second when she's throwing herself to sacrifice herself,
Hawkeye got sacrificed in that universe, and so
or she gets pulled from it somehow, and she's able to come back. Well, no, because
we really.
That's right. We know because she did not
night.
Die in the snap. She was alive.
Exactly.
She sacrificed herself, so she didn't come back. Yeah, right. So unless there's some little nugget at the end of that movie that's like, hey, the next thing.
I just explained it to you.
What?
There's a multiverse.
Right.
Where Hawkeye goes over instead of her. It literally just flips. You could show the same scene and just reverse it. I'm sure they shot both versions.
Yeah. Or there's a multiverse, but that never happens because they let Wanda take on Thanos to begin with.
Or they pluck her out if they want to have her in there. And presumably, they're going to want to have Scarlett Johansson around for as many movies as she's willing to be in.
Of course.
Okay. So. But I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm excited for the next,
If Winter Soldier and Falcon hits this as a bare minimum, I'll be interested to see where it goes.
The other thing I'm excited about is I think it's going to also be a very different show tonally from the get-go, and it's going to be doing its own kind of interesting new thing that will feel different than the movies, but will still have the same scale and grandeur of the movies at the same time.
Because, I can tell you, the 2-second scene where he asked him to move his chair up when they're in that tiny car in Captain America of Civil War. That right there was enough for me to be like, these two should have their own show.
Yeah.
His old best bud and his new best bud, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to become best buds themselves because he's going to be gone. Yeah. Let's see what happens. I think it'd be really good.
I think it's going to be awesome, and it looks incredible.
Yes,
just from the trailers, it looks action packed. Anybody who was like, "Oh, I was bored by those first 5 or 6 episodes of WandaVision," I don't think was wrong. And I don't,
because just as a comment on television as a whole,
excuse me,
that was amazing.
The ultimate payoff of that for why did we watch all of these episodes of imitating classic sitcoms and moving up through the decades.
When she finds the treasure chest of all these old
just the flashback, and it's I'm watching it and I'm like, dude, this was so simple. This is just good writing. You should have seen this coming all along. That it ties in with her childhood. But seeing it in the moment, I was just like, it's beautiful, man. Dude, this is why we love art.
This is why we do
stories that brings us all together. It was like, this is great stuff.
If Lucille Ball can connect to a child in Sokovia, and how, no matter what, America is a great, beautiful place that you can run into hilarious hijinks because your husband won't let you be in the show. And, if anybody can do it, it's her. And it's the power of television.
If I'm not mistaken...
That's entertainment. Sorry.
If I'm not mistaken, we're getting a Lucy and Desi show. Or movie. Movie? Not sure. I may be... conflating a couple of different things, but I think this is accurate. Written and directed by Aaron Sorkin.
Oh, God.
Starring Nicole Kidman as Lucille Ball and Javier Bardem as Desi Arnaz.
Okay,
I almost said Ricky Ricardo, but Desi Arnaz.
Okay. So is someone going to die in this, and they're going to have to, cover it up and frame it kind of thing? Like a Pretty Little Lies, Beautiful. I'm just kidding. That's the joke about Nicole Kidman doing the same kind of show. Just make it it'd be an HBO show. It'd be the same thing. She's going to be
undoing those big little lies while she's... They haven't done a third one yet.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up as soon as I started talking about The Undoing. You were like, she's just always doing stuff like this. I was like what? Big little, one other thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways. Okay. Shall we?
I got one.
Oh, excuse me.
I got one new one.
Let me see if I got anything.
I got one new movie and a one nice rewatch. You want the nice rewatch first?
Sure.
I watched Lost Boys again.
Nice.
Because, the one thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the damn vampires. And a new one I watched, Boss Level on Hulu.
Okay, I was thinking about checking it out.
Frank Grillo.
Yeah.
I have a thing I want to try and put this in, and as I'm thinking of it, there's maybe only 4 movies, but I feel like somehow just because of how much they've come out so quickly, it might be a thing. But it's you would call it Groundhog Day with blank. and like that's the genre. Groundhog Day is the genre.
Okay, so Palm Springs and Boss Level. What else are you talking about?
Groundhog Day, Happy Death Day, Happy Death Day 2.
Okay.
There's one other one I watched with a time loop in it. I can't think of it. But like because it's been so recent, again, Palm Springs shows you the comedy side of that. This can show you the action side of it. Then the Happy Death Day shows you the horror side of it. And again, Groundhog Day shows you the comedy as well.
You're forgetting Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, All You Need Is Kill.
Yeah. That one. Yeah. Same thing. And I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that I can think of. But it feels like it's such a lazy plot device, but also to see like what.
But the idea that people are riffing on it to the extent that they have, that's what I was compelled by this. And I heard Frank Grillo's actually really great.
He is, dude. And that's another guy who came from, like, he's Crossbones in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And I really liked there was one he did on Netflix a while back where he literally is just driving the entire time. And I thought he held it pretty well to be like the lead of that movie, and he really doesn't ever get out of the car.
Word. And he was good in, is that the first or no, second Purge?
He's in 2 Purge movies, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I missed the third one. And
Purge
beyond.
Anarchy. Because he shows up as like a cop who's going to do something in the second one, and then the third one he's like, I'm protecting you, Senator, because you want to end the Purge. I did
watch the third one.
Yeah. If he's protecting somebody, that's
okay.
that.
All right. A rewatch Coming to America. I already mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
My Girl.
Oh.
2.
Oh, yes. With Austin St. John? No, that's a Power Ranger.
I was going to say.
Sorry. It's Austin something, isn't it? From
Austin Nick. Now you messed me up, dude. Austin O'Brien.
O'Brien, that's right, yeah. From
Last Action Hero. Yeah. Veronica had never seen it. She knew the first one. It's not like we rewatched the first one. It's just I told her there was a My Girl 2, and she was like, what is that about? I was like, it's great. She goes to L.A. She finds out about her mother.
She finds her real father?
Finds Jeffrey Pomeroy? Not a real father.
I thought her real father was Dan Aykroyd just like adopted her.
No. She thinks that for a little bit.
Oh.
But no, Jeffrey Pomeroy's like, no, I'm not your father. Like,
okay.
I mean, spoilers for My Girl, too.
Yeah,
if you've never seen it. No, Dan Aykroyd's definitely her father.
Right.
I forgot that...
The uncle?
Why, no, not at all. I remembered all of San Francisco, or just like her California adventure in general. It's not San Francisco. It's L.A. specifically. They go to the La Brea Tar Pits.
Yeah.
Where they have the giant scene in Last Action Hero as well. But yeah. He takes her there, and he almost throws away Thomas J's mood ring. You're like, fuck this kid. And then he's like, I'm just messing with you. And you're like, fuck this kid. That's not a funny joke.
Yeah.
You don't mess with Thomas J's mood ring. Anyways, she, it's, I don't know. I liked it. I don't know if it, like, totally holds together. Still great soundtrack. Mm-hmm. The thing I was going to say, though, I completely forgot that there's a lot of the movie before she leaves to go to California.
Right.
Because they're like, we got Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis, but like she's pregnant in this one.
Right.
So we can't like move them too far, and she's got to go there, but we don't want to squander having them in the movie. But I just forgot that like it's probably about a solid like half hour, 35 minutes before she gets to California. Mm-hmm. But yeah, her uncle's great. All that stuff holds up. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. I mean, it's not the straight up like childhood classic that the first one is, but I like that it exists and it manages to actually kind of deepen her character. And they try and do some interesting things with like the time period that I did not pick up on when I was a little kid. Like references to how her mom was a little bit more like subversive and like
she's more like a Jenny kind of character from Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Definitely. And getting all the different versions of her mom from all these different people because she's trying to kind of piece it together. It's a pretty solid Ben Stein cameo. There's a few other people. It's worth revisiting, especially if you're doing, but like, why not do both?
It's weird because like the My Girl 2 is the one that I had in my mind the most because I guess just when someone told me about like what happens in My Girl as a kid, I instantly remember thinking like, well, do we see it? Like, how does that happen? And then when it's like, it's shot the way it's shot and found out, I was like, oh, okay. Because I just remember hearing like, okay, Macaulay Culkin
Gets stung by
bees,
We
and you're
can't
like,
see that.
oh my
I don't want
god,
to
no,
see that.
oh yeah, because you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, you're picturing like some horror movie shit
Exactly,
with
like
yeah,
boils and like just
right.
anaphylaxis and all that, and so I know the beats of My Girl, and I know like Jamie Lee Curtis and all that in the first one and whatnot, but for some reason, My Girl 2 is the one I always think of when I think of
Well, I
scenes.
think it's also because it's like they basically made this whole movie to make up for the fact that they killed Macaulay Culkin at the end of that movie, like that they traumatized all these people, and it's like, well, look, it's okay. She's gonna go on and like she'll have relationships and find out more about herself, and maybe she'll find a new boy with blonde hair that's a little shaggier and he's a little edgier, but really not at
No.
all. Yeah, he's like supposed to be kind of like a tough LA kid who has the energy of like a New York kid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
And then that also clicked for me where I'm like, wait, Last Action Hero, he's in New York, right?
And he takes a trip to LA,
into
to a
LA
movie.
when he goes inside the movie.
Right.
And that's why I think of him as like he's a little New York shit. He's a little New
Yeah,
York street kid. Like that's what
exactly.
he is. Anyways. But he
I
still
thought
has
what-
that energy in
I
My
thought that
Girl,
was
too.
the bit,
You know,
though.
like-
I thought that it was like, it wasn't the uncle's kid. It was like a stepson or somebody or whatever from New York that is a transplant to L.A.
I do. He may
thought
be as well, but I didn't take it that way. No, because his mom owns the body shop,
Right.
and the uncle is working there and is in a relationship with the mom. So he's not a stepdad officially. That's the whole crux of that
Right.
B plot of the movie is whether he can man up and make a commitment
Right.
to Rose, the woman that works there.
'Cause,
We're way down the My Girl 2 rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Let's stop, please.
Yeah, let's stop before we
I
get
watched
too
My
far.
Girl 2. My only other one, other than Renaissance Man, which I don't know if we're talking about that first.
No,
or
we're not.
but-
We're not. We're going to end on a happy note.
Okay, if you say so. Rewatched the comedy movie starring Tim Heidecker from about 8 or 9 years ago that I did not appreciate the first time I saw it, and now think it's absolutely brilliant, and I'm glad I revisited it.
Well, that's good.
I think you would hate it. You probably shouldn't watch it.
I don't know how I feel about him right now. Like, I like him and stuff I see with him, but I don't know if I'm that's my guy. Like, I think
He's one of my guys now.
Yeah, obviously
As of
he
the
is.
last several years, he's one of my guys.
And that's dope. But like, I don't know. I don't know where he sits for me.
I'll have to show you some more stuff.
Yeah, please.
Maybe
do.
check out the comedy. I'd be interested to see what you think of it.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. It's free on Topic right now,
Oh, okay.
which we have for maybe like 7 or 8 more days. I don't know how long that free trial was, but I did it so I could rewatch it. Okay. So I guess you already established. I guess we're doing it in the bedroom first. Is that what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Take a trip up to Maine.
Yes.
Bang a Maine.
Yep. Let's take a listen to the trailer.
There are things of which I may not speak. There are dreams that cannot die. There are thoughts that make the strong heart weak, bring a pallor into the cheek, and a mist before the eye.
I got the wrong kind of buns. If you could borrow hers, what I would give you to back my youth. Never had that in your youth.
He won't listen to me. Needs his head in school, not in her.
She probably loves him. Girls always have.
I've had lots of girlfriends, and I don't understand why this one is any different.
She's not divorced yet, you know.
We're not serious, Mom. It's a summer thing.
I was just thinking
About what?
about you.
Where are they, with him?
It's none of your business.
They're my boys, but they're none of my business.
Oh my God, what happened?
Did you hit him at all? Come on, tell me you hit him.
It was a scuffle. It wasn't serious.
Did you call the police?
You take my house, and you take my kids.
Why don't we just sleep on it, deal with it tomorrow?
Go upstairs. You can't admit the truth to me or to yourself. You encouraged him.
Are you saying that I'm the one responsible?
I know what you think, that I let him get away with everything!
All right, I cut it short there because it's just a lot of dramatic music and a lot of pull quotes from critics going, "This shit's intense. Sissy Spacek's brilliant. Tom Wilkinson's a revelation," et cetera, et cetera. And then there's no more. They don't like tag it up with "in the bedroom" at the end or anything like that. So there you go. That's the trailer for 2001's In the Bedroom. I've mentioned it multiple times on this podcast over the last several years. One of my all-time favorite movies, but also a movie that I feel like is a one-and-doner for a lot of people, but is weirdly one of those movies I go back to all the time. So I wanted to force Gavin to go back through it, which he did not seem excited to do. I did
support my local secondhand shop, and I did go buy a DVD just for the hell of it, just because I figured somebody's got to get a little bit of enjoyment out of this, and think I can, revel in the $10 I paid him for In the Bedroom.
Worth every penny, in my opinion. A steal, one might say.
Yeah.
You own this now.
I do.
And I wonder how much you will be tempted to revisit it in the future. Maybe
Never again.
Never again? You're done?
Nope.
Okay.
If someone's like, hey, you just got any really fucking depressing shit I can watch, something to just make me feel bad and terrible for the rest of my day, say no more, fam. In the Bedroom. It is a downer, dude. I mean, a full-on downer.
This is your second time watching it?
This
third time? Okay. This was probably like, I want to say my 8th or 9th, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And what part of wanting to rewatch it is to investigate, like, why do I love it so much? Why is it one of those I do want to go back to constantly? Even though, like, just listening to that trailer and the moment that happens about 40 minutes into this movie, just hearing bits of that scene, I'm like, I just, a chill runs up my spine. It is flat out, it's one of the most stunning debut films ever, period, dot. Interesting little tidbit. The only movie other than Citizen Kane that's a debut feature that got nominated for fucking 5 Academy Awards as well.
Oh, wow.
And came up with a big old goose egg, by the way. We'll talk about that year's Oscars.
Yeah.
Whether it's worth being angry about them or not. I'll remind you what they were up against.
Please do.
That'll be a fun little segment. We'll get to that. The basic plot, if you're not familiar, and if you didn't catch it from the little bits of the trailer, small town Maine, Camden, Maine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
A young man played by old Nick Stahl, who some people might be familiar with. He was that yellow bastard. He was the bully in Bully, same year this movie came out. T3.
You're forgetting
What
Noah.
do you think people know Nick Stahl from?
He's Gavin in Disturbing Behavior.
Oh my God, how could I forget Gavin?
Yeah.
How dare I? Disturbing Behavior. Classic.
It is a classic, yes. Yeah, when I was watching this, in my head I was like, the coal miner's daughter, fucking John Connor, and Juntao are all in one movie. Not to mention my cousin Vinny's girlfriend or Aunt May.
Juntao is where you go.
What else? Where would I go?
Tom Wilkinson's classic performance in Rush Hour. Dude, he's a great villain in Rush Hour.
But where else would I know him from? Like
at
what?
the time?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
What's he done since that I need to be like...
Dude, I mean, the other big one...
Is it Michael Clayton?
Michael Clayton is the other big one, which he did get the supporting for, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you think it's
I know he was at least nominated.
Is it well, if he did, is it a rebound for this, you think?
I think it was a mega... We can go ahead and get into it. I think Tom Wilkinson... This is like one of my 10 favorite performances by an actor, period. I think everybody in this movie is doing like career best work. And they also happen to be some of the best actors in the game. Especially the 3 kind of main lead performances, all of which were nominated. I feel like they kind of left Nick Stahl out to dry. I feel like this is a great early, like... I mean, I know he had done stuff before, but this is a great, like... I'm in adult movies now kind of movies. And to have Bully in the same year as well, playing a completely different character. I don't know if you remember Bully, but he is such a piece of shit in that movie. That's the Larry Clark movie After Kids.
Okay.
Brad Renfro.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just, only slightly easier to swallow than Kids. But also, that's a movie I'll never rewatch Bully again.
No.
Just not going to do it. But he plays truly a monstrous piece of shit in that movie. So to play this, where it's like, I mean, so much of it is the young love, etc., etc. I totally stopped telling the plot. A young man who should be on his way to college has started up a relationship with a, in the process, divorcee. It's not official yet.
Right.
She's got 2 kids. It's Marissa Tomei. I mean, what do we got to say?
Yeah.
There's no questions here. Even
and she doesn't have her own children, right?
What's that?
I thought I remember
real life.
I remember reading something about how like she plays like Aunt May and she plays
moms,
mothers,
but she's not a mom.
She's not a mom.
I think that might be accurate, or she played a grandma at this point, or something.
Something,
like that.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if she has kids or not.
I don't think so.
I don't know. One of those actresses who it's like, I've never heard like, oh yeah, all the stuff about her personal life. She's just one of those people like.
I feel like she's one of those last old. Because when she got in and like, because I mean she's nominated for she wins for My Cousin Vinny.
100%.
So she comes in and it's like coming in that hot that early. I think she got just like she missed the boat on like. You know, she could just as easily been in that like that late 90s wave of like, oh, we got to know what's going on with all these actresses and like, you know, who's going to do these performances and stuff. And I think, but also she managed to like low key be in a lot of stuff that's really good. And just somehow like, maybe we think, oh, well, we gave it to her a long time ago. We're not going to recognize her. Whereas someone like, you know, Meryl Streep, it's like, is she in a movie? Does she want it? She can have it because we all love Meryl Streep and everything, which is a weird thing to me because I've never really been like a huge fan, but I also like appreciate the craft and stuff. Because I forgot to tell you, we can talk about it later because we're in the bedroom now. I did watch Nomadland, like I told you I would. Anyway, let's keep going in the bedroom.
Yeah, we said you also got to watch Minari, and then we can talk about both of those. I appreciate you not bringing it up earlier, though. So yes, they started a relation, or they're in the midst of a relationship. His parents, played by the incredible Sissy Spacek,
yes,
the aforementioned Tom Wilkinson, are alternately
diametrically opposed to the entire
relationship.
Situation.
Basically, the dad is totally on board. Why would he not be? It's Marissa Tomei. He's literally commenting to his buddies about how attractive she is, etc. Sissy Spacek is a little more suspect because it's like, hey, you're about to go to college. Why are you messing around with in the process? We're going to call her a divorcee, whatever. Yeah. It's not final. I feel like William Maypother would like for me to let you know we're not actually divorced yet. All right?
I figured it out.
We're not divorced.
It's like if you mush Tom Cruise and Pedro Pascal together.
Yes.
He's Bobo Pedro Pascal. That's what 100%. I'm calling him. I don't know
It's
what
Pedro
else to
Cruz.
Pedro Cruz. That's what we're calling this motherfucker.
Pedro Cruz.
Fuck Pedro Cruz. I do not like him in any movie he's been in.
Simply he plays a great shit. I will give him that.
Yeah. Because of this movie. I'm sure he's a joy. He's probably a delight. He probably have some regale you with stories about his cousin Tom.
But to the point where when he showed up on Lost, for instance, that I was watching, it's like he shows up in an episode and I was just like,
fuck
get this guy out of
nope,
here.
He's done.
This guy did it.
Yes.
Whatever
the problem is,
this guy did it.
Which is weird because like I did not know fucking Tom Cruise's last name is Maypother.
Yeah.
Weird as shit.
Yeah. They're cousins, correct?
They are, yes.
First cousins.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And he's been... I feel like he's in a couple Cruise movies, but I'd have
he's got to be.
We don't have.
If I'm not mistaken, he's in.
Anyways,
some of the good ones.
He's the ex-husband, and things start to escalate. Basically, there's lingering tension. He wants to move back in, start things up, but Marissa Tomei's not having it. She's got her new young, like, super intelligent college boy that she's having fun with and seems to get along with the kids, and so she's not down for it. So this frustrates old what are we calling him? Excuse me, Pedro Cruz.
Pedro Cruz. He gets upset.
Cruz gets very upset. Yes, and pretty. Where I mean, do you want to go scene by scene? Where do you want to hit the sack? Because it's
okay. So
it's one of those movies
I appreciate this as like a slice of life main. This is kind of like
it has an incredible sense of place,
right?
Yes.
And the way that it's shot, because it definitely in the DVD it feels like film. It feels like one of the last big movies to be made on film to me. it just for whatever reason.
And I don't know anything about lenses and camera stocks, etc., but it has a particular tinge to it. I agree with you, where the greens are extremely rich, and when we get into it, particularly the kind of final third act sequence that takes place at dusk, essentially, moving into magic hour and then nighttime, is some of the most gorgeous photography. And then we go through also to the following morning, where we also get a second magic hour.
Right.
Is some of the most gorgeous cinematography. Another one where I'm like, where was that Oscar nomination?
Exactly.
We'll talk about it. Let's just lay out the plot, and then we can go into detail. You talked about how well you think it's shot. The details are what work for me here. So that's what I want to get to, and then we can go scene by scene.
Let me lay it out broad spectrum. Okay,
Please
ready?
do. Plot time with Gavin.
All right, here we go. Young kid going to college, starts a thing up. Supposed to just be for the summer, but he starts a thing up with a hot divorcee. Okay, slowly we see ex-husband not really down with it. First he's all right, but then slowly, gradually, he's starting to show his temper. He's not happy with this shit. The parents, they're telling him, you got to do something. You got to get ready to go to college. You got to do whatever. And then one day, out of the blue, he's getting ready to. He's talked to the people at his college. He's getting accepted. It's going to be great. And he gets a phone call from one of the kids. Oh my God, I'll be right over. What's happened? Oh God, the ex has shown up. He's trashed a bunch of shit. And she's like, I don't want to call the cops. I don't want to get involved. He's like, yeah, we're doing this. Like, he's finally starting to there's just a glint in his eye where he's like, this is getting real. Like, the shit that, like, my dad and my mom were just talking to me about when they're patching me up, maybe they're onto something. And, then we get to the absolute worst fucking scene in any movie I've ever seen in that year. That comes up. We can talk about that in a minute. And essentially, spoiler alert for In the Bedroom, they confront each other off camera, and Marissa Tomei is, coming down to just deal with it, and pop, a gun goes off. And she screams, and Nick Stahl is dead with what looks like his eyeball bulging out of his face. And we basically get the aftermath of that throughout the rest of the movie, which leads to a very, very satisfying ending, which we can talk about when we get to the ending.
Sure. Great point to lead off on part of what I absolutely love about this movie. You just said you don't see that confrontation.
Nope.
You hear it. You hear it, but you do not see it. The things that are left out of this movie,
yes,
are 100% what just every little detail, fucking perfect. There's an early scene where they're at a barbecue,
right?
And this is the first time the ex-husband is introduced, and he comes up, and it's like he's celebrating with the younger of the two kids,
right,
Duncan, and then we see a little bit of tension between him, the kids, and the mom. And then Nick Stahl enters the picture, and we don't hear any of that conversation.
No.
We see it through the parents' eyes. We see them watching it, and Sissy Spacek asks, should we do something? Like, should we step in and intervene here, or do you think this is going to escalate? And Tom Wilkinson is like, no, don't worry about it. It's okay. But we don't hear that interaction. We don't hear that conversation. There's a scene a little bit later where you're getting the sense that Nick Stahl is like, he's getting more invested in this relationship, and he's really thinking this might be something more, maybe I'll take a year off. He's talking to her. It's in the evening. He's playing with the blocks because he's an architect in this. I also read the short story for the first time. We can talk about some of the differences. It was 10 PDF pages. I think it's a little bit longer. Probably about 15, 16 pages. Fantastic short story. And this is maybe one of the best adaptations of a short story or an adaptation of anything ever, just like what he did with it. And there are some beats and like lines of dialogue straight out of that short story. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. But we don't... okay, so he's showing her the blocks and everything, and he talks about, like, funny anecdote about the kids, like, oh, if they're like this now, we're going to be in trouble, implying that, like, I've thought about us being together long term, etc. And kind of just as that's happening, headlights come on their faces, and we hear a truck roll up. Cut. Don't see anything there. He shows up at home, beat up, and we hear his account of things and how it happened, but we don't see that conflict.
Mm-hmm.
It's hidden. It's removed from us. It's kept in the dark. It's in the bedroom, if you will. In the bedroom applies to so many different things in this. I love all the dual layered metaphors, and the thing that they set up in a very early scene where they take the oldest kid, Jason, out on the lobster boat because works
watching it this time and getting that metaphor of this is what's up.
You get more than 2 of these in here, and
they're gonna
and it's a metaphor not only for this love triangle that's about to take place, but it's also a metaphor for he and Sissy Spacek's relationship and whether they're going to be able to coexist after the tragedy that befalls their family. Very key difference from the short story. In the short story, they have 2 other kids.
Oh.
They have an older son and a middle daughter, neither of which live there. He is the baby. He is their last kind of connective tissue to being parents. Mm-hmm. So there's still that thread to it. But that detail, I think shifting that is one of the most genius decisions this movie makes. That he is their only son.
Right.
So you feel it. And again, in leaving out all of the obvious beats after he's killed, okay, which is a devastating scene. Again, we don't see it. We experience it as Marissa Tomei experiences it, essentially. And it's devastating, and it's so visceral, the build up to it as well, and the menace when on the side of the glass door, Nick Stahl is like, just go home, and we see the look in William Mapother's eye, and it shifts to just like,
oh, she's not here? Then I'll just come in here and murder the fuck out of you.
Yeah, you're just like, dude, he's not leaving. This is not good. Like, incredible performance in that moment. And again, cinematography is incredible throughout this whole movie, but we're following his view through this living room, through all of the windows as he moves alongside the house, and then the realization that like, oh fuck, front door's unlocked. Fucking front door's unlocked. Boom, he's in here. Cut away from it again. We see the start of the conflict, but we don't actually see it. We're back upstairs with Marissa Tomei and the kids. By the way, that whole sequence is incredible, but they're talking downstairs. There's the wreckage, and he's like, you gotta call the cops. This is when he first arrives. Gotta call the cops. She doesn't want to scare the kids. I don't know what to do. She's like worked up and emotional and everything. And then just smash cut, upstairs view, the oldest kid, Jason, the dad's truck rolling into frame out the window, and him just screaming, "Mom!" And you're like, "Oh fuck! Oh, this is not good." And it just ratchets up that tension the whole time.
Because I knew it was coming, but I didn't know it was that quick. I felt like there was more.
Well, it's 3-act structure. It really is. It's 40 minutes in. It's literally a third of the way through the movie. It's it's right when there should be a big thing, but you don't expect that to be the thing. If you watch this trailer or listen to parts of this trailer, you were led to believe that like that conflict is something that the whole movie is building towards.
Right.
Not that and I feel like, and it's not even presented as like a twist or a rug pull or anything in the movie. I don't think. I mean, it is a shocking moment, and it is staged as such to be, and to stick with you and be visceral and all of those things. But I don't think it was intended with like, oh, I'm gonna fucking play the shit out of this audience. I'm gonna bait and switch them, and they're gonna think it's about this one because the trailers also highlighted like this is Tom Wilkinson and Sissy Spacek's movie,
right?
And it's also about their son. But you knew that something was gonna happen, essentially. Right. But again, the things that they leave out. After that shocking and intense scene, we go into like a very kind of quiet, muted period for a while where there's not a lot of dialogue. Like even like the volume on the priest as they're burying him, because we pretty much do a hard cut. We see a brief scene of Tom Wilkinson going to the school where Sissy Spacek teaches music at. But again, the things we don't see this obvious wrenching emotional scene of him having to tell her, or even doing the silent version of like, you know, he's talking to her and we just see her visceral emotional reaction. We don't even see it. We hard cut to the funeral. And I'm like, that's where at every turn, this is like, I feel like if you describe this plot, you could see something like this on Lifetime. I'm sure something like this exists.
Probably.
You know, something along these lines. You got a little murder, a little sex, slightly older woman, a taboo thing, ex-husbands, etc. And I feel like those were popular at the time as well. But this, like, the way that this manages to, like, never get anywhere near any of that territory is because it does not hit any of the obvious beats that you expect people to play in that. And as such, I think that's why the performances are so strong, because they just all feel like real people. They don't feel like movie characters at all. And there's so much POV, too, especially Matt's POV, or Tom Wilkinson's POV. And great moments like when they start meeting with the lawyer and stuff. And it's like, this guy's telling you kind of very matter-of-factly, all right, well, so because Marissa Tomei gave testimony, which was true, that she did not actually see him discharge the gun, well, now they're going to be able to argue this whole, like, it was an accident, yeah? I didn't mean
the defense attorney.
Yeah.
Who is she?
It's Karen Allen.
That is Karen Allen,
Jones
yes.
And Sandlot, of course.
Yes, of course. Yeah. She just randomly popped up in there, and I was like, of course fucking Karen Allen would be in Maine doing this if she wasn't acting. Like, I thought it was just her, you know?
Well, and we should say, I mean, Celia Weston, who people will know from a lot of stuff, who's in here, every time I see her, and I love her in everything, and she's great in everything, but I always think of Observe and Report. When she tells Seth Rogen, I'm really trying to get my shit together, he's like, oh, Mom, you're going to quit drinking? And she's like, no, honey, I'm switching to beer. I can pound those all day and still keep my shit together. She's brilliant. So good. But other than her, all of the kind of like local community, the priest, the poker group, all of those guys, I'm like, are these just like regional theater actors?
That's what I'm wondering.
Because they're all incredible, but I've never seen any of these people before.
Or probably again.
And and I was like, they're either local hires, but they're not non-actors.
No, they know what they're doing.
Yeah. But yeah, just incredibly stacked. And again, sense of place and everything. Everybody's nailing the accent. There's no weird, like, you don't brush up against that at all.
Right.
It just feels of the place. It also has that, well, not to backtrack, but it has that great opening credit sequence of the, like, sardine factory and everything. Great. I think it's Thomas Newman did the score on this, which is another thing. I watched it with headphones last night, probably for the first time. Very subtle score, and the movie actually like doesn't do a lot of score. It's not overplayed at all. But when it comes in, that kind of like prickly, stringy thing.
The opening is the sardine factory where he works.
Yes.
He works for Stroud or whatever. He used to work for the Stroud guy.
He did.
Right.
And now he has gone independent.
Right.
Yes.
Is that not the husband's family?
Yes.
That's okay.
The whole
I never
thing.
got that last time.
So he's basically rich boy, didn't want to this I got from the short story. Never bothered to learn the family business. He's basically the pariah, but he kind of lives off his family's wealth, except he got married, got divorced, and now has like or is in the process of getting divorced, has child support payments, blah blah blah. And then of course after this murder, which they're going to try to talk down to manslaughter, is essentially a pariah in the community. That's why he goes to work in that neighboring town, in a bar where nobody really knows who he is.
Right.
But yes, and that's part of the kind of the midsection of the film, which is the kind of growing realization that like they've got to heal their marriage to a certain extent, but there is no way that possible for them to do that while this guy is still walking around breathing air and their son is not. Because Sissy Spacek sees him in public, she sees him out with women. She has like the awkward interaction with him at the store as well, and there's the subtle thing as well. But we see Strout trucks and signs all the time, and the idea of like you're living in a place that is populated by this name that is just like everywhere you look, you're being reminded of it.
Right.
But then also you have to deal with the fact that like this guy is out on bail, which you didn't expect at all, and your wife is having a hard time coping. You guys aren't really talking or addressing any of it. That kind of quiet section that we talked about right after the murder and the funeral.
Oh, I feel like it's quiet all up until they have their blow up fight, and then it's like, okay, now we know where we're going.
There's a scene I mean, they kind of sleepwalk their way through the wake and all of that stuff. Are barely talking to each other. Incredible scene where Tom Wilkinson goes into the bedroom and just kind of looks at like this was like his future. He's got all of his architecture shit up everywhere. And
there's still clothes that haven't been put away.
Exactly.
It's just like
this is the room. He literally stepped out of here and walked into that scenario and never came back.
Right.
But Tom Wilkinson does this breakdown in there, and again, it's note perfect. There's nothing in this movie that is overplayed or overwrought or feels false or performative at any point. It's so note perfect. It's just like, I don't know how you...
I really wonder, and maybe that's why, like, the fight that they have, I wonder where they like, you need to hit these bits. These are these lines I want from the short story. You think I let him get away with everything. That's what I want.
Here's where I say the
But then you just go. You just go, but give me those.
The adaptation thing comes in. That scene, which you think would be, oh, this is the centerpiece, obviously... That scene is not in the short story.
Right.
That conflict, not at all. I'll tell you the beats that are, which is essentially the conversation that he has with his buddy later in the basement. Talk about that. It's very few little bits of dialogue. I'm trying to, because again, the fact that there's two other siblings as well complicates things a little bit. But that's really the main scene that I remember, and then the ending and how it plays out is pretty much described in depth, and you're kind of flashing back to moments as well along the way. But there's a lot of individual lines and stuff, but that central conflict kind of brings together a lot of elements that are hinted at in the short story. How much was Tom Wilkinson like maybe living vicariously through his son, maybe getting off on this in a certain way, and it's like her verbally challenging him on that in the midst of their argument stands in place of like all of that's internalized like God level authorship in the short story, where it's like, I'm telling you that he's also having these thoughts simultaneously, because it's from Matt's perspective, but it's not first person essentially. So all of that's in there, but it's like, you don't know that the wife is necessarily thinking. The wife character, essentially Ruth, Sissy Spacek, is kind of what Todd Field said was like why he wanted to make the movie or adapt the story in the first place, because the wife character is hinted at, but you don't really get to know her at all. You don't know any of her motivations.
So you wanted to flesh it out more for her character to make it.
But again, what he did with it behind, I really encourage. Again, dude, it's like 16 pages. I really recommend you read it just as a to see what he did with it. And he talked about how he read it, wanted to adapt it, wanted to do it for his his senior thesis, or like his whatever film school or program he was in. He wanted to do it as like his third cycle of films. And his professor was like, there's too much there, you should expand this, etc. And so he put it down and he didn't do it, and he started thinking about adapting it way down the line, and he had all of these thoughts about like, oh, I remember this element from the story, whatever, and had come up with all of this stuff in his head. And then he said he went back and reread it and was like, oh shit, like hardly any of this is here. Like I invented whole backstories and stuff that I hadn't, And so he eventually like contacts the author, goes in and, he said, why do you want to adapt this, basically? And he said, I'm really curious about that wife character. And he was like, okay, go do it and don't ask me any more questions. Like, just go do your thing with it. Don't, I don't need to know anymore. They met and talked for a couple hours, and he was like, all right, yeah, go do my thing. But just to expand it, and then I mean, part of it is just the actors. You could not have hoped for a better cast.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you look at
and he wasn't. We haven't talked about this, but he was an actor himself.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
Twister,
Joe Field,
Todd Field. Yeah.
What was he in? And who is he in Twister?
I'll give you his. We'll go down the rabbit hole. I mean, for me, He's Nick Nightingale in Eyes Wide Shut. He's the piano player that gets Tom Cruise into the orgy.
Okay.
Yes. Hold on. 41 acting credits, by the way.
Whoa,
This motherfucker's only made 2 movies. Like,
wow.
I don't know who's not giving him money, but what the hell? What happened? He had been in things that you would recognize. He was on an episode of Roseanne. There you go. Bunch of TV in the 90s. We're getting to the movies. We're getting there. Twister. He's Belzer. You would recognize. I mean, here.
Let me see his picture.
A picture of Todd Field.
Yeah.
That would be
I think
easier.
I know who you're talking about. Oh, yeah.
You know him.
I know that guy. That's pretty dope, dude. I didn't know he made that movie. Now I have a way more of an appreciation for it.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's still terrible. Don't watch it. It's the worst experience you could have as someone dealing with it. I mean, listen.
But
anyways,
I think that's where the talent with the actors comes
right.
from. Is because
Well, no,
those
and
actors
to get to
weren't-
the talent point of it, I think it's interesting to watch his interaction with her post-death versus Sissy Spacek's interaction with her, because he approaches her in her store and he's kind of timidly like behind her waiting to talk, like, I don't want to be an inconvenience to you, can you talk to me for a minute? And finally he just steps up and like he's a person in line, whereas she comes to her and Sissy Spacek is like, get out of here, bitch, I ain't talking to you.
backhands her.
Sorry, well, yeah, I front-handed, but same thing.
Yes.
Backhands the shit out of her, doesn't say a word to her, right? Puts her headphones back on.
And P.S. We never see Marissa Tomei again.
That's it.
That's her final scene in the movie.
Yeah. She gets backhanded, and that's it.
Supporting actress nominee, though, richly deserved for her, 50 minutes beforehand.
Yeah.
Or just incredible stuff. And again, the natural, like, the scene with her and Tom Wilkinson in particular, and with Sissy Spacek, because it's like, gee, what do you say? What the fuck do you say? There are no words. And Tom Wilkinson knows that and recognizes that and tells her, basically is like, I know, there is nothing to say here. I'm just trying to check in on you.
Oh, but he's a doctor. That's what he's trained to do. Like, he knows
exactly
what
and
people
Sissy
need.
Spacek just can't let it go. And she talks to her priest. She's like, I just have this intense anger. I can't let it go. And it's just I won't say commitment to that, but yeah, the commitment to that, where it's just like, this movie is not, this doesn't all of a sudden become about like, oh, well, they had to heal their marriage and heal each other and work past this grief, and then they get to a better, slightly happier place, and they learn to love each other again by the end of this movie. It's like, no.
That's not what happens.
That's not going to work. Like, you can't have that ending.
You pick this movie up a year, 2 years after the end. If they're still together, I'm shocked. That's not what happens in real life. There is no closure and all that. There is no such thing as closure. They do what they do to May Pother, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't bring Nick Stahl back. It doesn't give you anything.
Right. Well, let's get to that, but I do want to finish talking about the centerpiece fight sequence. The only other thing I want to say, other than the fact that it's one of my favorite dialogue scenes, performance scenes in anything ever. It's like the murder scene would be enough of a, it sounds weird to call it a highlight, but enough of a showcase sequence where it's like, dude, this guy just knows how to make a fucking movie. Holy shit. But this scene outdoes it almost. I'm like, that's the scene I think of.
That's the scene people probably remember.
When I think of this movie, I think of Sissy Spacek smashing that dish and saying everything. And I also think of Nick Stahl getting shot and the kid screaming mom and Marissa Tomei's reaction and all of that stuff. The brilliant detail, after Tom Wilkinson unloads on her some of the most vicious, vile shit you could ever say to a mother, much less a mother with one child who is gone now.
Who cannot have another.
All of her worst fears and insecurities and the stuff she is beating herself up for internally the whole time. The little slights back when he was a kid, all that stuff. To throw that in her face is so emotionally devastating. And then the doorbell rings. And it's a little girl from a gymnastics team, and she's trying to sell some candy bars. And there are not many moments of there are moments of humor in this movie and chuckles. They are few and far between.
Yes.
But that break of such an intense emotional scene to also show you, hey, life just goes on. Just like in the wake scene, the first shot we see inside their house, he's looking at two little kids playing, having fun. He's looking at people milling about and having conversation because
that's what happens.
They're on the outside of it. This is what happens. People experience tragedy, and it's a microcosm for the final fucking shot of this movie where it pulls out and it shows you this is just one little tiny story in this house, in this space. But it pulls back to show you, like, this is just one little tiny story in this giant community. And yeah, the people around it. And I love the, his friends, his poker buddies don't know how to interact with him anymore.
And he just told him, just fucking say something.
He has the great scene where he's like, hey, we're not doing this. I'm not playing the, like, awkward thing. Like, you guys say something. And his buddy comes out with a, I think it's a HWL, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I think it's a Longfellow poem, which is just, like, perfectly timed and literally, like, oh my God, this is brilliant. That's another thing. Like, that's not in the short story. That's the kind of thing where it's just like, I'm just finding stuff that's thematically perfect for what I'm trying to do. That has another one of my favorite Tom Wilkinson moments, which is that guy finishes that incredible monologue and delivery of that poem, and there's just a slight look between those dudes. That's essentially like a thank you, I really needed that, and that actually really helped me in this moment, but we're also men and veterans of war. And I'm not going to just be like, thank you out loud, but it's all exchanged in like a look between the two of them. And it's some of the most beautiful shit I've ever seen in a movie. And again, it's those subtle little details. They're in the lawyer's room. They're getting terrible news and everything. And his eye floats to like pictures of the guy with his dog and shit, and like family photos and stuff. He's talking to that same lawyer later on where it's like, can we do something about this? Is there a piece of evidence we can get to like make sure this guy gets put away? And as he's telling him once again, like, oh, there's nothing I can really do, we hear the jingle. This guy's literally like jingling change in his pocket. Those little details of that feel so rich and feel like things you would read on a page that give you so much more depth into a character and a situation. He manages to visualize them in a way that doesn't feel like it feels so cinematic, but it's just fantastic visual storytelling throughout the entire movie.
But also thematically, it does show you enough to like let you understand that like here's a guy who is a man's man, who has seen war, who has probably taken lives before. Maybe to atone for it, has become a doctor to try and save them. And what's the one person he couldn't save? His son. Why? Because maybe, just like his wife said, maybe he was kind of into the fact that he was with hot Marissa Tomei.
Yeah.
Okay? So, in having to face that, and coming to the grips in reality that, like, she said, oh, I saw it go off when the cops talked to her. She says on the stand, I heard it. And that slip up is the one reason why he's out on bail in another town. And then he gets turned down at every single avenue he goes to try
every
and
legal avenue.
Legally have this man atone for it. And they say he may get 5 years. To the point that when he decides to do what he does, he tells him, I'm going to jail. I know it. Like, it's okay. Like, I am going to go. I have to go do my time. I know what I did was wrong. But in the same breath, he says, he was fucking my wife. What do you want me to do? And it's like, you are a fucking piece of shit, Pedro Cruz. I do not like you. But you know why he's a piece of shit, Noah? If you watch that scene, when he's done, he fucking sits down at the table and puts the gun on the table and waits.
Yeah.
That is someone who is fucking done. That's either someone who is, my daddy owns this town, I'm not going to jail, or fuck it, I don't give a shit, I'm done, and I'm just gonna wait here. That's not someone who's like, oh, I gotta get, that's like next level psychopathy. Yeah. That's not, I gotta murder someone and I gotta, oh my God, I'm crazy and I gotta run away. It's like, no, I know what I'm doing. I came in this door with this gun.
Methodical. Yeah.
And the worst part about it, dude, is fucking Nick Stahl just saying, just put that away. Put that a pop. And it is so visceral because I have been lucky to only have a moment like that happen to me once. Okay? And
Okay.
it's one of those where, like, I wasn't even trying to date this girl, but because I was the one that hung around after the Halloween party was over, and I'm helping clean up shit, and the crazy ex-boyfriend comes banging on the garage, looking indoors, and the next thing you know, the girl's mom is like, "Who's there?" Opens the door, and he barges his way in. It's like, well, shit, now I got to deal with this lady. And, you know, next thing you know, it's like, it's crazy, man. And it was wild. And, like, you know, we bumped into him later on at that brand new show, and he apologized, and I was like, bro, I wasn't even trying to date that girl or, like, have sex with her or anything. I was talking to her to make this other girl jealous.
Pedro Cruz.
I was trying not to get Pedro Cruz. And maybe, I mean, that's not why I have such a visceral reaction to it. But that is, I mean, it genuinely is my biggest fear. Because think about it.
Go ahead.
What's worse than, like, this is the absolute worst thing when you think about it. You know, it's like that person who's like, hey, I caused a wreck that killed your entire family. I'm going to go to jail now. But, like, if I'm a good prisoner, there's overpopulation, they'll let me out. I've served my time, allegedly.
Right.
But the idea that, like, this isn't an accident. This isn't anything other than you wanted to kill my son for whatever reasons were. Doesn't matter. You came into a home you weren't welcome in. You shot my son, and you are not going to pay for it in any way whatsoever. I cannot imagine, because I know this happens all the time. I cannot imagine what it does to people to know that someone else has taken a human life and there will be no retribution for them on this earth. Again, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't bring anybody back. But on some level, there has to be some sense of fairness and some sense that, like, things are right, because it's not right that your loved one's gone. So at the very least, the person who took them should have to go too. That's a big thing why, like, people just can't imagine the Amish. Like, I watched a thing where some guy hit a horse and buggy and killed this Amish man's entire family. And the Amish guy forgave him, prayed for him, and spoke at his trial. And that is what kept the guy from getting, like, the forgiveness. And it boggles my mind that someone can do that. But I get that that's someone who has strong faith and realizes that I don't need to be the reason why other lives are ruined. My life has been ruined, but I have enough faith in God to say, I'm not going to let this other person's life be ruined and have that man leave, his family be ruined too. Why should I? But to get to this point, I fucking hate Pedro Cruz, and I'm so glad what happens to him. Because if that happened to me, and I was in the bedroom by someone, I would hope that Dad tracks them down, drives them out to the woods, shoots them in the fucking chest, or in Dad's case, the fucking face. I hope Dad would shoot him in the face, and bury him on someone's property where no one will ever fucking find him again. That's all I hope happens. Dad, if you're listening, I love you, and now you know what to do in case something happens.
Yeah, love you too, Dad. Our own personal Tom Wilkinson. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can just get into the back there. I didn't tag up on the end of the argument. The beauty after the after the gymnast girl shows up and selling candy bars, and he buys a few or whatever, brings them back in. He immediately apologizes, and it's just like, nobody should ever have to hear that shit. Like, I can't believe I said it to you. She apologized too, because she said some hurtful shit as well. Again, they are intentionally out to hurt each other because they're both hurt people, and they haven't let any of it out.
To watch them in scenes before this where she's like, she notices his drinking, he notices how she is and stuff,
how she's starting to smoke. Dude, great scene earlier. It's like the first scene they've been around each other that we've seen post funeral, and she's sitting downstairs watching TV, smoking, which she pretty much is permanently for the rest of the movie, and Tom Wilkinson's just sitting off the side of her. And it's all of these scenes, it's the most innocuous shit, like, on television. But I listened, just hearing it, I was like, is that the dude from Yes Dear being interviewed on, like, a late night talk show? And I was like, that's exactly what that is.
Oh my
God.
The
lead actor in Yes Dear.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, yeah, this is, like, note perfect. Like, this is what you would pick if it's like, yeah, this is like, the kind of mindless shit that you just. She's not watching this. She's not wrapped up in it in any way. It is a means for her to not engage or talk to.
That is the beauty of watching her with that, because you can see it in her face that her eyes are on that TV set, but those gears are going a mile a minute up in her head, and like it's everything.
Well,
it is everything going on.
And let's not spoil the ultimate sissy thing until we get to the very end, which is one of my other favorite aspects of this entire movie. So. We've already been out to his friends, one of his poker buddies' place, the one who's married to Celia Weston. It's kind of the first time they've been out,
right,
to do a thing in a bit. And to her credit, Ruth, Sissy Spacek, she's game. She's making small talk and everything. Devastating scene with her and Celia Weston where she's like, she asked Celia Weston, "How many grandkids do you have?" And she struggles to remember them all.
Yes.
Because she has so many children. Mm-hmm. And then she just kind of realizes in the moment, like, oh my God, this is like the worst thing I could be saying. But Sissy Spacek, she doesn't just break down crying or any of that stuff. She's like, we always wanted to have more, but then we didn't. And then Matt had his practice, so we had the one, we had Frank. And it's just, that is so much more devastating, because she's like, she's not looking for a pity party. She's not wanting like emotional comfort. She's not trying to make her feel bad for having a family that still exists or whatever. She's just like, yeah, I don't have my son anymore. But it's so, again, note perfect. It's not this overwrought, like, oh my God, she brought up, and she wasn't even thinking, she's talking about kids, and Sissy Spacek doesn't have a kid. It's not this whole, like, thing. It's just, it's how people actually talk to each other. It's fucking great shit. But we set up, they have this remote place. You have to use there's the little turnaround bridge.
That guy, man, that dude just was spinning the bridge.
Yeah. So we set that up, and we also have a beautiful shot, which I had never caught, honestly, until this viewing, where we first see that Matt is staking out Pedro Cruz's place.
Yeah.
And it's also the reveal that he's a veteran. And I love that they do it by, it's like, wait, okay, that's I guess that's Matt's car. He's listening to the Red Sox game. I definitely know that's his car. Okay. That looks like, oh shit, that's the ex-husband's truck. Okay, whoa, what's going on? Is something about to happen here? Why is the camera shifting down here? What do you want me to see? Oh, oh, he's a veteran. Oh, so he knows how to handle himself? Oh, maybe file that away for later. But it's not like, it's just it's visual storytelling. If you got up to take a piss and you didn't hear it and you were like, oh, there's no dialogue happening right now, like you're missing it. Just every time I go back to it, it's so rich in detail. There's not a wasted frame in it. It's one of those movies. Great stuff. He talks to, I think it's Willis. He talks to his friend, and he's like,
real broken up about it. He's like, yeah, I really hate like that this is happening. Like I'm sorry, candidate for one of the best buds in movies.
Oh,
right up there with what's his face from
Midnight
Bellflower.
Special. Oh, I thought we were going
and Midnight Special.
Oh, hell yeah, and Tyler Dawson from Bellflower.
Bellflower
as well.
Midnight Special. This guy, he's just like, let's do it,
dude. Never thought of it before, and we need to shout out the actor because
because it's one of those. I was just like, when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, because again, the first two times I watched it, I never picked up on like, one, veteran, and two, like I got it. Like I meant this time I remember them being like, it's like 500, 300 something acres or 300 something miles or something like that of land he owns.
His friend is Willis Grinnell, played by William Wise, who doesn't even have a picture on IMDb.
Wow.
So definitely either a local or first time guy.
Like,
but yeah,
perfect.
dude, Willis in the bedroom, candidate for best friend of all time.
Yes.
So he's telling me, he's like, I hate this guy. You know what? He's gonna get off. Well, that whole scene again is like line for line the story he recounts about. Like, remember that woman who killed her husband and dropped him off the whatever bridge, and sweared the whole way that nobody helped her, dropped her off with 100-pound weight or whatever.
Yeah, she's out now. She's moved on. She's married
and whoever helped her, where the hell are they?
Yeah.
that whole setup, all of that straight out of the short story.
And he said something to the effect of like, he's bad. Like even his.
He said my kids went to school with him.
He was a shit then,
even back then, basically.
Yeah.
And the other line, which is a total classic, which is like, you ever notice how even the worst bastards have friends? Like, yeah. So, and prior to that, like Matt had gone and tried to like meet up with a guy who like worked with him tangentially, and he's grasping at straws at this point where he's like, has he maybe bragged about it? Has he randomly said something to somebody who would possibly be willing to testify? Like, I need some other form of evidence now that, you know, the Marissa Tomei testimony is basically, you know, it going to be thrown out or not going to be of any use. So anyways, they have that scene in the basement, but like, we don't get a scene of like, okay, so here's what we're going to do to him, blah, blah, blah. We just, all of a sudden,
go do it.
We're doing it. We're just in this scene.
Yeah, we're just there. Watching him try and like pick up the chick.
The other best, but you still have to watch it. I can't remember did I give you Rolling Thunder yet?
Not yet.
Dude, Tommy Lee Jones is a candidate for best bud in there, but he has a great line where it's like they have the whole setup and then he's just like, he says nothing and he's like, I'll get my gear. And then they just proceed to do what they're going to do.
That's the whole reason I want to watch that movie.
Thing in the world.
That's so what good. Erica told me. That's what they watched at some grindhouse thing when she lived in Texas. And Tarantino showed up. He was showing it there. And she's like, yeah, the whole movie is like, the big deal is like, you know, this guy has this whole thing and Tommy Lee Jones just like, I'll get my stuff. And then they go whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. I have to watch this movie now. But I've never watched it.
So good. Anyways, so the scene's just happening.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We don't necessarily know what's up.
No, not really. It's kind of revealed to us in the moment. And it is the most slowed down and moment to moment the movie has been thus far. Even though the movie has had a certain amount of stillness to it as well. Okay. Meets him outside the bar as he's closing up shop. We get a great moment. If you needed to remind yourself, this guy's a fucking piece of shit. He's hitting on some girl that works at the bar with him. And she's basically like, go home, you fucking drunk. And he's like, fuck you, bitch, as she's driving away. Like out of earshot. Yeah. And then as he turns around, Tom Wilkinson's right there. And Tom Wilkinson has a look almost of like, yeah, I made the right decision here. I definitely should be doing this. Like, fuck this guy.
Right.
But he's, oh God, so much great interplay. Eventually he reveals he has a gun. And he's like, get in the car. We're driving to your place. And he's a little reticent, but he gets in there. He starts asking a few questions. And they don't really talk that much. I think at some point in this, he says he was making it with my wife.
Yeah, he's making it with my wife.
He puts the gun to the back of his head and is basically like, don't talk right now. Drive to your house. Mm-hmm. They get there, and it's slow and methodical. It's exactly how you would intelligently do this if you were doing it.
And the brilliance of it is he says, pack warm clothes. Mm-hmm. Pack clothes for warmth because it's where you're going. You're going to be gone for a while. You need to have clothes for when it gets warmer. And I heard that and I was like, this motherfucker is cold-blooded. And he is going to get what he wants.
There's moments in the short story where they talk about he decides to do that lie in the moment and then starts building on it and then starts judging himself for giving this guy the sense of hope. And all of that.
Oh, no, I loved it.
But no, that's what I'm saying. I loved it in this because it felt like it was like, dude, this was planned to a T. Like, they had this planned out. We just never saw the plan. And then things and the brilliance of it and the tension is you were waiting at any moment in this for it to flip and go the other way. Because you're like, you've seen that he has been, the William Mapother character, Pedro Cruz, he has been so menacing before. And so, and you're like, I know Tom Wilkinson's a veteran, but like,
he's got a few years on him.
He's not a young man. And what's going to happen here?
But like, I looked at it as like the lie and like, you know, you got to be gone. Somebody's going to, like that. I feel like was like, oh, he's lulling him into a sense of like,
exactly. Yes.
Okay. And when he realizes like, oh, well, you get that it was an accident. Like maybe he believes that like the father of the man he killed thinks that it was
the ultimate thing is he's like, it's the trial. I can't put my wife through that.
Yeah.
She keeps seeing you in town.
You just got to go away.
We can't have you here, so we just need you to go somewhere else.
Yes.
That's all it is. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, you think, if I could have done it before, I would have already done it. I could have given him a false name or gotten on a train, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, don't worry about it. You've got more people helping you now, essentially. And that's the reveal to him that, like, oh, okay, there's somebody else in on this. And he's like, it's really late. There's no flights from the airport this time of night. Oh, excuse me. While they're packing, the great detail, two main things. He sees the kids' drawings on the wall. Mm-hmm. Two boys' drawings. And I guess we're meant to believe this is probably his, like, either new house or old, This was, like, not their house shared together. This is probably like a bachelor pad where, like, yeah, and he has some stuff from the kids. And he has very little else. It's very sparse.
Yeah.
But he has some pictures of the kids, and he has a picture of him and Marissa Tomei. And that kind of comes into play a little bit later. But they, again, have an interact, he was trying to make it with my wife. He doesn't really, and he's like, I was just trying to get back together with her. He was always there, and at this point, I'm just like, dude, just shut the fuck up. Like, why are you running your mouth right now? But it adds to because you're just like, oh my God, like, what are we building to here? Mm-hmm. So he lulls him. They're about to roll out. He leaves the Amtrak ticket in there before they peace out. Get in the car, and he tells him, there's no flights right now. And he's like, somebody's going to keep you. That's where we're going to for a bit. So he tells him to drive, tells him to turn on the game, and kind of nods off for a bit because he's like, all right, he's going to take me there. He's not going to, like, get stopped by the cops. He trusts me at this point. Mm-hmm. Drive him out there. They miss the cutoff turn or whatever. They get to the driveway of Willis. Mm-hmm. Willis is coming out. He goes to hand him the bag. Tom Wilkinson goes to hand Pedro Cruz. I love that we're sticking with it.
Yeah.
The bag, fakes him out with his luggage, pulls the gun, and then shoots him in the chest. He's worming around down on the ground, and he puts, I think, 2 more in him.
I think so.
In his back. In the short story, he shoots him once, he's crawling on the ground, and then he kindly goes up and puts a single 1 more in the back of his head. Slight change, whatever. But Willis is like, I love the reveal of like, oh, Matt, he seems kind of shocked by it. And you're like, oh, fuck, was he not expecting this? Like, they really were going to take him to the airport. And he's like, this is not what we planned. We were going to take him out in the woods later. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. Hard cut to them with him wrapped up, towing him behind with ATVs.
Yeah.
All of this is freaking brilliantly shot out in the woods. Like, I don't know how he got it's like, it seems like all just natural light. And I don't know. Obviously, you could probably do some crazy color correction and shit at the time. But some of the shots he gets in this is just incredible. So, they bury him. They're a little behind on schedule. They drive back into town. They re-put his car out by the bar. They toss the keys, I believe, at some point. I don't know if they show that or if that's in the short story. I'm maybe conflating the two at this point. Mm-hmm. Tom Wilkinson gets home. He strips everything off, showers, all of this stuff. And of course, this is tracking where I'm like, I remember thinking in my head the first time I watched it.
They were left her recital, right? She finally had the recital where she was having the girl sing, and he leaves there to go do this. Because she doesn't know where he's been, right?
No.
Oh.
No. Well, you could debate that if you want to, but we'll get into that in a second. I don't know that it's necessary. It might be the night of the recital. We see them at the recital, and that's kind of the haunting, like, prelude to that evening, we assume.
Right.
Okay. But I don't think it's meant to... We don't physically see them leave that sequence, or maybe we do.
I thought he leaves it on his own, and she's still there doing whatever.
I may have actually missed that shot this time and just not thought about it.
I don't know.
But regardless, he arrives, he comes back home, he goes upstairs, he comes in, she's awake, and she's smoking, and she says, "Did you do it?" Mm-hmm. To me, that is that's the reveal of, like, he's after, to me in my head, after they get their shit together, essentially.
After their fight.
And have that catharsis of, like, I've said every terrible fucking thing I could say to you. You've said the same back to me. But we're finally talking. We're finally having a dialogue. In my head canon, again, given all the stuff that we don't see in this movie, they talk about it like that day. It's like, I keep seeing him in town. Like, I keep seeing this guy. The tail end of that scene is, well, I gotta get rid of him then, or whatever. But that, to me, that was the ultimate reveal. When he comes home and you're expecting, like, oh, he's going to crawl into bed with her, and, like, is she even going to get the satisfaction of knowing that the guy is gone, or any of that, or he's just, he's not going to be around anymore, but will the husband, is this going to be a secret that he keeps? That's immediately where I thought this movie was going to end the first time. It's like, he goes and does this thing for her, which gives him closure, but she's still kind of robbed of the closure,
right,
etc. And when he comes in and she asks, "Did you do it?" I took that as like, "Oh fuck." She knew what he was going to do. She knew of the plan, etc. The only one who was in the dark was Willis's wife, who they gave a pill, which they again brilliantly set up early.
They're worried about that. They're worried about the guy on the bridge, whether he saw them at a certain time. Like, it's methodical in their intention. So, like you said, you don't see it, but you know that they went over this to a T.
Exactly. And that's why, again, I'm like, I know he and Sissy Spacek have discussed this, and that's why, but I loved that moment. And she, I believe the last lines are like, she's like, "Oh my God, you must be so hungry. Like, I know you've been out all night, like, killing this guy and burying him, etc. Do you want eggs? Do you want coffee?" And, like, that's pretty much it. And we, and there is the line of, like, there is a picture of him
and her.
Something about her smile, and she says, "What was it?" And he said, "I don't know." And that, again, is an echo of the short story as well, where it's like, he still has so much emotions wrapped up in, like, the Marissa Tomei of it all, and, like, how much did I contribute to this, and, like, idolizing her a bit still, and, like, wait, well, there were all these rumors about, like, they had cheated on each other in their marriage before. Was she the one? Did she start it? Did he start it? Who was in the right? I think she was the innocent here, but maybe she wasn't. Maybe she really did love him. Did I take this guy away from his wife and kids, essentially? Like, maybe he could have worked through this. Is it justifiable? All of that. And again, all of that is just playing on Tom Wilkinson's face. But it's not anything that's just there or spelled out for you. It's just all in the acting. And then, like I said, I referenced it earlier, but we get that incredible, just kind of like, here's their house, here's their neighborhood, here's their town, here's their city, and we're done. And that's that. Again, note perfect, would not change a thing, flawless acting, I think an impeccable script, it's gorgeously shot, and it's tense, and it's super well made, and it's engaging for as heavy as the material is. I find it incredibly watchable.
I agree.
And I wish he made more movies, man. I don't know what else to say. He did Little Children several years after this.
Okay.
Which is excellent as well. I don't hold in quite the same esteem as this, but I also have not rewatched it. That's a one and done for me. But the long gestating and never quite happened dream project, he was supposed to make an adaptation of Blood Meridian or An Evening Redness in the West by Cormac McCarthy, the most violent Western ever written. He got it the farthest along, I think, of anybody. Ridley Scott was going to do a version at one point, never happened. Todd Field had this thing, I think, close to production multiple times, and it never came together. He does have a few things listed as in production. My secret hope, 2021, 2022, is the year Richard Linklater and Todd Field re-enter the world of movie making.
I could see that. I could get behind that.
That's my secret hope. So, 10 out of 10, masterpiece, flawless. One of my favorite movies ever. I don't have much more to say about it. Thank you for going back through it with me. I'm glad you responded. Again, the main thing and the thing I get out of it more and more every time I go back is the actual craft of the filmmaking and the storytelling and how how deep it goes, and like it's to take again 16 pages of a story and imbue it with this much depth and character and like deep resonant themes, I think is remarkable. And the last thing we will end on, because I know you want to get to Renaissance Man at some point, we got to talk about the Oscars.
Okay, well, you cue the Oscars up. I'm gonna take a short bathroom break.
Will the court be willing to grant me a short bathroom break? It's Batman, Your Honor. Wordless fool, the end is pitiful rope.
I'm kicking my ass. Do you mind? Oh God! Classic Jim Carrey.
Yeah, no, I feel like Liar Liar does not get talked about.
Do you remember that? Like I called up to American Video multiple times a day for like a week to see if they had a copy of Liar Liar available for us to rent.
I don't remember anticipating it that much, but
we saw it in theaters, didn't we?
I think we did too. So why were we waiting for the VHS? I guess we just really wanted to see it again.
Yeah, we thought it was funny. We just thought it was amazing.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't as cool as when Dad rented Kazam for us, but you know.
Okay. Adapted screenplay.
Okay.
Again, I just highlighted what an incredible adaptation this movie is. Loses to a Beautiful Mind by Akiva Goldsmith, the writer of Batman and Robin, and many terrible pieces of shit, who occasionally writes decent things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was also up against Shrek, Fellowship of the Ring, and Ghost World. I would have even given the edge to Ghost World, but A Beautiful Mind, come on. Come on now. Okay. Original score, not even nominated. I can kind of understand it though. You got a Lord of the Rings, a Harry Potter in there. You got John Williams for artificial intelligence, AI.
Oh wow.
Beautiful Mind, James Horner and Randy Newman for Monsters Inc. and Fellowship 1. Supporting actress.
Okay.
Marissa Tomei in The Bedroom. Mm-hmm. Maggie Smith, Gosford Park.
Mm-hmm.
Kate Winslet and Iris.
Mm-hmm.
Helen Mirren in Gosford Park. And the winner, Jennifer Connelly in A Beautiful Mind. AKA, we didn't have the balls to give it to you for Requiem for a Dream the year prior.
Yes.
So here you go. I'm just saying.
You know, that's it. That's 100%.
When's the last time you watched A Beautiful Mind?
Yeah.
Fucking Ron Howard. Here, and again, we can't really argue with this. Are you looking at it too?
No.
I'm going to read them to you. I just want you to spoil
Go ahead.
Best Actor at the 74th Annual Academy Awards. Will Smith for Ali, a movie we've covered on Manhunters. Go back and check that out on the Movie Arc feed. A nomination that has not aged well for some people, I'm sure. Sean Penn for I Am Sam.
Yeah.
I think it was controversial at the time that people were like, I don't know, is this too much? Is this too much? Tom Wilkinson in The Bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind. Now remember, the only reason he probably doesn't win, he won for Gladiator the year prior. And the reason Tom Wilkinson really doesn't win, do you know what year this is?
This is the year of the Lord of the Rings.
This is the year of fucking Alonzo Harris, baby. This is
this
yeah,
is
Denzel
impossible.
winning for Training Day.
You mean Denzel winning for all the other times he didn't win before?
Exactly. There was no possible way that Tom Wilkinson would win. It was just sheer bad luck.
Right.
And here's the thing. If we want to get right down to it, better performance.
Yeah.
The factor that made Training Day so explosive and fantastic is we hadn't seen that side of Denzel.
No, we hadn't.
And he had also, again, not been properly acknowledged beforehand. But then, again, if I'm not mistaken, Tom Wilkinson gets his due with Michael Clayton, which is an incredible supporting performance. Another one where it's like, dude, spoilers for Michael Clayton, but that's another movie where there is a death about 40 minutes in that you are not expecting at all.
I haven't seen it.
You never...
All the way through. I just know George Clooney's like a handler dude or something.
Dude, fuck it. I got my next 2x2 pick. That's 2007, baby. That beats the rule.
Okay.
You've never seen it start to finish?
I've seen like the opening 10 minutes, and then that's it.
Again, I'm not going to overhype it because it's overhypable. Dude, one of just the best movies ever, dude. I adore Michael Clayton.
Okay.
Saw it in the theater with Barham, and both of us were just like, we went in the afternoon, like after school. It was 2007, dude. Like one of the best movie years ever. And it was just like a Wednesday in the middle of the week after school. It was like, dude, you want to go see that Clooney movie? Michael Clayton? Mm-hmm. Fucking floored. Like we both were just like, dude, that was so good. We still talk about it every once in a while. We're just like, dude, do you remember Michael Clayton?
Remember that time we saw Michael Clayton?
I watch it probably once a year.
Yeah.
Definitely one of those random movies that I've seen like 10 or 15 times for no reason.
Okay.
But
I'll
yeah.
find it and
Anyways, yeah, you were never going to be able to beat Denzel, unfortunately. And that will also probably remind you that this was the Halle Berry Monsters Ball year.
Ooh.
Kind of undeniable, but that's what keeps Sissy out of the conversation.
Right.
You also had Nicole Kidman in Moulin Rouge, Judi Dench in Iris, and Renee Zellweger for Bridget Jones's Diary. Yeah, and then just while we're at it, this is that's right. I've been pissed about this one before. So, Best Supporting Actor. Mm-hmm. Nick Stahl does not get a nomination. Tell me whether you think he deserved one or not. Jim Broadbent for Iris, who wins. You'll remember why I'm so pissed about this. Ian McKellen, nominated as Gandalf, one of the few acting nominations for a Lord of the Rings cast member, I will point out. Mm-hmm. Didn't win. Jon Voight for Ali. Now, you could have gone Jamie Foxx there. You could have been ahead of the curve, giving it to Jamie, but, you know, it is what it is. Ethan Hawke for Training Day. 100% needs to be in the category. I would not drop that.
But couldn't win because you can't give it for the same movie.
You could have.
Have they ever?
I don't think so.
Exactly. Not going to do it.
I don't know if that's ever happened.
You imagine how he's got to feel. He gets nominated for that.
The one I did not mention that we have talked about before, and 110% should have been the winner, and it was also a prior candidate for a 2x2. And maybe I'll bring this one back up right now because you said we were just going to tease a bunch of possible ones.
Yeah.
Ben Kingsley for Sexy Beast.
Yeah.
Huge miscalculation. Why? I guess he had gotten it for Gandhi. Is that right?
I believe so.
So maybe it's the case of he's got one, so why not? But
they give it to
Don Logan.
But they give it to fucking Meryl Streep all the time.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I don't get it. I really don't.
Guys can only get one. You know.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what the rules is. It's just.
And then of course it lost Best Picture to A Beautiful Mind, of course. And I believe that means it also lost Best Director if Todd Field was nominated, which he should have been. Yeah, man.
I don't think he wasn't nominated, was he?
Disappointing year, but as always, the movie that doesn't win usually ages better. But here's my thing, and the reason I wanted to do a podcast, and the reason we've talked this long about it, I feel like there's no cultural conversation around this movie at all. It never gets brought up. I never hear anybody reference In the Bedroom.
No, they don't.
Positively or negatively. I just feel like it has completely disappeared from the discourse. The crop of movies I just listed for you there, though, that Oscar year. We had Training Day, which I think has a presence still. Moulin Rouge, which I feel like had a huge moment, and nobody talks about it anymore. I feel like after Australia, Baz Luhrmann pretty much disappeared. Excuse me. He had Great Gatsby. What am I talking about?
I was going to say, yeah, he did.
Excuse me. He did have a comeback after Australia, which was kind of a letdown. But what else are we talking? We're at Gosford Park, which is that was late Altman. Good movie, but I feel like it was more of a, it had a great ensemble, so it was easy to like throw a lot of noms. It was a very Oscar-y movie.
Yeah, it's the kind of movies that Hollywood would love to. If you make a movie about Hollywood or like about, Hollywood-ish stuff that Hollywood types would be like, this is great and sophisticated and amazing, they'll give you a nod.
Well, and it's emblematic as well. Again, there's no conversation around it. Where are these movies anymore?
Well, The Lord of the Rings is on HBO right now.
No. Where are the In the Bedrooms now? Where are the intelligent adult dramas with big, weighty themes? Like, where are they at, man?
Netflix.
This was a hit.
Yeah.
This was a fucking hit on its budget. It also has the rare distinction of being the highest grossing movie, non-IMAX movie, the highest grossing movie to never appear in the top 10 at the box office. It never even cracked the top 10. It just kept making money. $1 million budget. You want to take a guess at the domestic? Or do you want to take a guess at the worldwide?
135.
135?
On $1 million budget?
That's wishful thinking, bro. Like, what?
What did it make?
$135 million?
Yeah.
I would love to live in a world where this made that.
You said it made all this money.
It did.
How much did it make?
It had $1 million budget, 1.7.
Mm-hmm.
Domestically, 35. Worldwide, 44. For this type of movie, that's huge, dude. What are you talking?
Yeah, I guess.
That's $40 million straight profit. There wasn't like a huge ad campaign or anything behind it.
Well, do you think,
You know what I'm
maybe
saying?
that's it, dude. Maybe they spent the money on the ads for the Oscars.
I'm just saying, they made this on the back of all of the awards consideration and the nominations, all of that stuff, which speaks to the importance of award shows, even when you don't win them, which is good. Just wanted to point all that out. But I'm just saying, a movie like this that came out, was incredibly well received by critics, and maybe was not something they could drop into 1,500 theaters right off the bat, but had some established stars in it, and the kind of narrative you could build an ad campaign around. Over time, it made its fucking money. Give me a couple more $2 million adult dramas, and give them some legs, and give them some time, and see what they can do. What's the harm? That movie made $40 million profit. So because it's not, well, we spent $300 million and it made $1 billion, it's still profit. It's all a money game, right? I'm just saying.
I don't...
Cost-benefit analysis.
I don't appreciate that you're talking to me like I'm the one doing this.
You're in charge. They told me you were in charge.
They told me you were the guy to see. I honestly, dude, you have to remember, what year did this movie come out? When did it debut in theaters?
2001.
What month?
Like Oscar season, I think.
Like January? February?
No, it came out for us and for like the general public in February of 2002.
Okay.
Like before the Oscars would be happening
Right.
that year. But it's a 2001 movie because it opened in New York and LA.
Okay.
Had its Oscar qualifying.
Okay.
Played in indie theaters.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the Miramax movie, by the way.
Okay.
Not that we have to mention that.
Right. But again, not for circumstances. I feel like one of the reasons why it did hit that is because it is a cathartic tool for the giant, hey, put that gun down, boom, that we suffered in September of that year. So if you have a bunch of people going to see it...
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
You have a bunch of people going to see it...
Think about the 9/11 of it
in
all
December
in relation to this movie.
and all that. It is the reason why it came out and then people kept going to see it is we're not even 6 months removed from that. So it plays that people can go see this thing and be like, well, what is it? And then maybe they go back and tell somebody, dude,
I feel like it probably had great word of mouth.
I'm
It's
sure
a movie
it did.
that like just sucks you in,
Right.
And I feel like makes kind of there's so many. If you go through kind of the web of IMDb user reviews, there are so many people echoing. I was glad to see essentially my same sentiment, which is like, this may not be my favorite movie ever made, but it is a perfect film,
right?
Or it is extremely effective in this regard or whatever. And it's like, yeah, this is not like an easy sell, but it's also one that, like, if you sit down and watch it, I challenge you to come away from this movie and be like, oh, yeah, to have a middling
you
reaction.
Will have a
to
reaction.
It. You will
regardless.
have a visceral reaction. Right. You may want to turn it off 40 minutes in, but you know, it's going to make
because
you feel
forget
something.
that is what that is the only part of that movie I remember when it came out. Somebody watched it somewhere.
Mom watched it, yeah.
Right. And I just remember that happening and being like, what? No.
So,
and then I was just like, ugh.
We didn't even address this. Mom rented it, presumably because it was a big awards contender and it had, gotten a lot of praise. Mm-hmm. Remember, she had it from Blockbuster. I remember kind of like half, I was in and out of the room or whatever for the first little bit. I remember that scene where Nick Stahl gets killed, and I sat and watched the rest of that movie with her.
I remember that part.
And so that was my introduction, though. Is like I didn't really catch all of the like setup, of the family dynamic, how they felt about the relationship. I just saw like, and I could tell Mom was like not expecting that. And then I was just super invested. And then where it ultimately goes with Tom Wilkinson, even as I was 10. Mm-hmm. I was like, 10 or 11. And I knew enough to be like, oh, this is like really intense and engaging. But I don't think I revisited it properly for like another 2 or 3 years after that, probably when I started to get into my Sycamore phase of just renting stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. That's when I really fell in love with it. And I've pretty much been watching it.
Yeah, because I can remember you renting it from Sycamore.
Yes. My DVD copy I have is from Sycamore. When they closed down, I bought their DVD copy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thank you for letting me get all that out.
Yeah, no.
That's one of the longest sections of a 2x2 we've done, but thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
You ready to go for 2 hours on Renaissance Man? Because we could do that.
Try and lighten up the mood a bit. All right. So, yeah, that was in the bedroom. So, thumbs up?
Yeah, I give it one thumb up.
One thumb? Well, that makes 2, brother.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm just saying, just make sure regardless, whatever happens, you just have to ask the questions. Okay, so are you really divorced? Are you just separated? Okay, you have kids. All right. They're not going to call me dad, right? Okay, cool.
Does his dad own, like, the biggest fishing company in town?
Yeah.
Because that might be an issue.
I mean, and I get that you're older than me, and the possibility is that, like, you may pass before I do. So if we have our own kids, there's that to worry about. However, I just need to know, one, how crazy is your ex? Where does he stay? And does he have a gun? Do you have a gun? Do you have a gun in this house? Okay, can I bring my gun in? Because that's what I always ask. I'm like, my gun's in my car. I know if anything happens, I just got to get to my car and I'll be okay. But if I get hemmed up in somebody's house and I can't get out, I'm going to get in the bedroom. That's just where my mind has always been. It's just like, I can't bring the gun in with me because that's going to be awkward. But if I know somebody's coming in and I'm there, if I can get outside and get to my car, I got a fighting chance. If not, somebody comes home when they're not supposed to, and I didn't, most of the time I've never even known about it. But like, again, this could be an argument for like, you know what? Maybe it's just better if you have sex with a husband and wife at the same time. That's fine.
Okay.
Like open marriages and swingers. Just do that. You won't get in the bedroom.
That would have been a very, very different direction. And I think based on the title, that's what a lot of people think this is. It's like an infidelity movie.
Right.
I honestly think.
Legally it is.
I mean, yeah. If you want to get into that technical. Yeah. Okay. So yes, please, everybody, stay safe. Don't get in the bedroom. And if anybody you know does, please Tom Wilkinson the fuck out of your Pedro Cruz.
Right, actually. But at the same time, also, if you know someone who is experiencing that, you should have them get help. I know it's a big thing that we don't talk about. It's the whole thing about why don't she leave? It doesn't matter. If you or anybody you know has ever experienced any kind of spousal abuse or anything, there's plenty of places out there that you can go to. There's plenty of people you can talk to, support networks. It's tough out there. She shows it in the movie. I don't even know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to call the police because she just doesn't want to make it a thing. And it's completely understandable for people to have that mindset. But we just need to say, we made jokes, don't get in the bedroom. But also, you don't have to be a victim. You don't have to be a victim of anything when it comes to any kind of domestic abuse or disputes or anything. So be safe, don't be a victim, don't get in the bedroom.
Yes. one last thing. Sorry, I just can't stop talking about it. As a rewatch, though, in the context of this retro review, this going back to it for me, I do think this is the rare movie. There's a handful of them out there. I think this movie plays even stronger your second or third time through.
Right.
Because all of that first chunk, when you know that scene is coming, every moment prior to that is
so
just
precious.
devastating. When he comes home and he's been beaten, and they're like, well, did you guys call the cops yet? Did you file a report? And you start connecting. You're like, there's no trail of evidence as well. There's no arguing. Like, this was a
repeated act of behavior,
building thing. If they had just reported that first time, open and shut case, it would have been done with. But there's so many little things, and yes, it's so precious, like you said, and they really nail the like young, youthful love and like life cut short aspect of it.
Right.
But yeah, every tiny little moment, especially the interaction with the parents, when you see what is another thing I caught this time, when you see what ends up being the final interaction between Frank and his mom, Sissy Spacek, she tries to talk to him, makes him a meal, brings it down to the kitchen, and he basically like shuts her out and doesn't want to talk about it. And again, brilliant visual storytelling. It's lit perfectly, and they're in the mirror, the glass reflection of the window that's behind them, almost removed from themselves. A lot of visual metaphor. Some of it very obvious. Some of it just like perfect subtle. And nicely subtle. I'll continue to go back to it. But I did after this time. I was like, you know what? I'm probably good for maybe 2 years. Maybe 2 year break. Okay, so. You ready for some solid laughs?
I am.
Okay.
I like it. I love it. I want more of it.
More victory tower, Drill Sergeant.
Too easy, Drill Sergeant. Too easy.
Okay. We're talking Renaissance Man, but let's take a listen to the trailer.
For Bill Rago, being out of work was a new experience.
We found you a job.
When have I ever been a teacher?
Come on, it won't hurt to try.
Do you know how many kids carry guns to school these days?
In this case, all of them.
The AEC is building 2310. Go half a click till you see the DPTM center. If you hit the RFPC, you're going too far.
Can I buy a vowel?
Now, what you've got here is a few soldiers in basic training who've fallen way behind the other recruits.
I'm not an animal. I'm not an animal. More. Look, peace.
I've never taught before, and you've never thought before. So, good luck to all of us. So what you're saying here is you want me to teach these guys how to comprehend?
He's hardly a soldier.
What's the matter? You can't get a job out in the real world?
They're barely students.
Hey, hold up. That is a diss. I ain't no oxymoron, all right?
You know what I think, Bill? I think you're wasting my time.
Yeah, well, you do your job and I'll do mine, all right?
Yeah, you know what the difference here, Bill, is? I care about what I do.
The Army wanted to make them into soldiers.
You good.
He wanted to open their minds.
This is called Hamlet.
Hamlet, yo, that's about a little bitty pig, right?
If you can get past Shakespeare, you can get past anything.
I don't know if anybody can help you, High-Speed.
Lou,
but I'm sure.
Go easy on the kid. Talk about anal. You must have been toilet trained at gunpoint.
Oh, that's it. That is it.
Touchstone Pictures presents...
You are not dumb, but I need you to know that.
The story of a man...
Do not saw the air too much with your hands, thus.
Who had a lot to teach.
This is important, Lou. This is important. This is why we're here.
And...
I told you not to look down. Everybody looks down when you tell them not to look down. You know that?
a lot to learn.
Yeah, looking good, Mr. Right.
From Penny Marshall, the director of Big, Awakenings, and A League of Their Own.
This is all that old self-be true. This is all that old self-be true.
Danny DeVito.
Victory starts here.
Renaissance Man.
Hamlet's mama, she's the queen. Hamlet's mama, she's the queen.
Buys it in the final scene.
She buys it in the final scene.
F,
All right, brother. Renaissance Man, your pick.
Yes.
From the grand old year of 1994. Another one of the greatest movie years of all time.
Agreed.
Don't know where this one stacks up with the likes of Pulp Fiction, Renaissance Man. Or, excuse me, I was going to say Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, it's there, isn't it? It's right on the tip of your tongue. You can't.
Pulp Fiction, The Shawshank Redemption, and I guess you could throw Forrest Gump in there, but I can think of a lot of other better movies from '94.
Did I ever tell you about Dr. Susan Courtney with Forrest Gump? She hated it.
I mean, a lot of people do.
She's like she's the director of the film and media studies program. She's like, it's a racist white way to remember the '60s.
I mean, that's pretty much the way it's regarded now.
Yeah, but like, I feel like she was the first one to say that.
Well, she should get credit then, I suppose. Okay. It's your pick, man. Why'd you pick it?
I picked it because it's fucking amazing, dude. Danny DeVito teaches Army kids Shakespeare. It's so simple. It's everything Gavin. You know?
Okay.
Short stature, lots of laughs, and Shakespeare. Okay. I mean, what else do you need?
I loved this movie.
Yes.
Loved.
When is the last time you saw this movie?
Quite a while ago.
Uh-huh.
I think it existed better in my glossy, rose-colored memory than it did on this rewatch.
Okay.
It also might have been, admittedly, a little colored by the fact that Veronica watched this with me and was very, very disappointed.
Oh.
Because I think she, based on the cover, which is Danny DeVito, short-ass Danny DeVito.
Lots of laughs. Solid
trapped
laughs.
between two giant army soldiers in full uniform.
Mm-hmm.
I think she thought she was going to get, like, in the army now. With Pauly Shore. I think she thought this was going to be like a kind of wacky,
like a Stripes
wacky
beats,
comedy with like, hey, he's little and now he's in the army. What's he gonna do? She literally, dude. This is. I'm not gonna do it justice. She said it. She put it even better, and I hope she does not take offense to this because she was doing a voice when she was doing it, but she was like. No, it's Danny DeVito. I just thought it was gonna be like, hey, I'm a goofball. like,
that's hilarious.
So that's what she was expecting, though. Okay, and I guess I did not properly explain to her. I'm like, it's more in the inspirational teacher.
This is like Stand and Deliver. This is
it's like Stand and Deliver light. Essentially, we don't have like the heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I didn't sell it correctly. And she's like, I didn't laugh once, not once. Not even when he was on the tower. I mean, that was pretty... I'm sorry, not to jump to it. You see this dude's balls, dog? I was just like, poor Danny DeVito. How long do they have him strung up there with this harness where you just see... just his fucking dick and balls is just completely compressed. And just to the point where I'm like, does this bump it up to an NC-17? What are we doing here? But God. That kind of stuff made her laugh. And then there was a line delivery by Wahlberg. I'll bring it up when we get to it.
Oh my God.
That had us both. We ran it back like 3 times. We were dying laughing. But then, of course, dude. Okay. The Life in the Street song comes up later.
Yes.
And she's like, what is this? And babe, I had no idea. Okay. I'm like, babe, I honestly don't know or whatever. But in my research, because I did some research,
Good job.
I was like, wait a second, IMDb trivia. Marky Mark contributed a song to the soundtrack called Life in the Streets. And I'm like, there's no way that's him singing. And I of course, go down the YouTube rabbit hole and I find the song, which you better goddamn well believe is what we're going to close this episode out with.
You should.
But I go find Life in the Streets. And... everybody, please, if you do nothing after watching this episode, if you've made it this far, if you do nothing after this episode, please go watch this music video because it is a treasure. It is
amazing.
Please lay out plot time for Renaissance Man, and we will move through what we what we thought of it, because we're 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 and 2.
Okay,
just to let you know.
So essentially, despite the giant, amazing boom of the new Clinton administration, unfortunately, Bill Rago finds himself out of a job in corporate America, and forced to go to the unemployment line and find some other means of work.
And he's greeted by... She was on Fresh Prince, but she was like...
She's Aunt Vi, or...
She's the other aunt, right?
Yeah, she's his aunt.
Aunt Vi.
Aunt Vi or Aunt...
There's Aunt Viv.
Aunt Vi.
His mom.
Who is... I don't know the mom's name. Yeah, Aunt Vi, yeah. She's the other... No, there's 4 sisters.
Keep talking.
Yeah. So anyway, he's forced to go to the unemployment line, and they find him a job, and...
Greeted by Jennifer Lewis.
Okay. They find him a job, and essentially, he gets a job teaching kids in the Army. And, you know, very soon he realizes that these aren't like the best and brightest, the few, the proud. These are like the dumbasses in the Army. Like the ones who can't hack it.
Yeah. Did you even mention like what he did prior to this?
Was he a corporate
how he got fired and everything?
Marketing guy? Was he?
He's an advertiser. He's a madman, essentially.
Yeah.
I bring it up to mention the fact that Ed Begley Jr. is top billed in this, in the top 4 actors in, again, this cast that has quite a few people in it. But I love that Ed Begley Jr. is pulling down 4th billing for literally like 2 minutes of screen time.
That's it.
In a 2 hour and 8 minute movie.
Yes.
Issue from the top. This movie is too fucking long, dude.
Okay.
It's too long. Let's get an editor in there. Penny, let's trim it up. League of Their Own's got the same problems. As does Big, honestly. Let's just trim it up. Let's trim it up, Penny. Is this our first female director?
Maybe.
On a 2x2?
Maybe.
Also one of our first legends on a 2x2. Definitely our first DeVito picture, right?
I believe so, because she's not... Who did Twins?
That's Ivan Reitman.
It is Reitman. Okay, yeah. Who did Junior?
You're asking as if we've covered these movies.
I know.
That's also Ivan Reitman, you dick. You know that. Don't be an asshole.
Where are we on that Twins sequel?
Love Juniors. Oh, and Eddie Murphy's supposed to be the other one?
Speaking of Eddie Murphy.
What happened to that, dude?
Yeah.
But that's what I was going to say earlier. I think Veronica, her main, like, reference point for DeVito at this point is like 10 years of Frank Reynolds.
Right.
On Sunny.
Right.
So I think she, and his natural, like, personality in interviews and, like, the way he is on social media and shit now, like, I think that's how most of the world sees him. So you go back to this, and come to find out, it was a complaint at the time that a lot of people were like, DeVito can't play straight like this. He only works if he's a weirdo, or he's screaming, or he's quirky and weird. We can't buy him with the heart. He doesn't have any heart.
Right.
And I thought to myself, I was like, wasn't that most of his 90s, though?
No, his 90s guys all had an angle.
Like Jack the Bear and some of these other ones I'm thinking about that I didn't really see.
To me, they all had an angle. This is the only straight man he's ever played. It's the only Family Guy he's kind of played with the daughter and everything. And I think that's what, to me, I go back to and I'm just like, when do you ever see him as just a dude? Like, he's just a guy. Okay, yeah, all right, maybe he's doing a little bit of that wild antic stuff as the madman before he becomes just unemployed. But, like, for the most part, it's just a straight up dude trying to figure out how to me, it's just like, oh my God, I gotta find work. I find work. Now, fuck, I can't relate to my kid. How do I do that? Well, let me talk to the youth of America who, just by happenstance, have joined the Army because maybe there's not much out there for them. Maybe I need to realize that. And because I do, I realize, you know what, my daughter wants to be an astronaut. Fuck yeah, I'm going to get her a telescope. She's going to be an astronaut.
Astronomer, dude.
Same thing. Astronomer, astronaut, doesn't matter.
It's a very different thing.
Okay, fine. My daughter wants to look at the stars. I'm going to do it because you know what?
Daughter played by Alana Ubach.
Yes.
Who you'll probably remember from Waiting. She was the one who liked to show her thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so what I told you he teaches the kids in the Army. Do you want me to go into the whole Shakespeare thing? We can pick up that later.
I mean, basically, they've been selected for a special program, right?
No, they're just like the ones who can't pass basic stuff. Aptitude, whatever.
That's not what I led to hear. And dude, this is... Maybe I got a little lost in the sauce, if you will, or a little lost in the plot. But the shit with him and Remar, like, the whole setup of this situation makes very little sense to me. And ultimately where it builds to also makes very little sense to me. But he says these 8 have been selected for a special group. They've been handpicked, but because they're they're great soldiers in certain aspects, but he's like, we just need you to make them think a little more critically, think a little more smartly, basically.
Right.
Because, like, you see, like, Haywood, for instance, is an excellent marksman, and, like, I need to get all the names in front of me and stuff, but, like, they're all talented, but they're, like, they're presumably lacking, even though some of them... They don't seem like they all are, like, remedial kids. It's not like a Welcome Back Kotter sort of thing. You know what I mean? But anyways, he's thrust into it, and it's like, you know, I don't want to be here. You guys don't want me. As soon as I love that they come in all professional, do their salute and everything, and as soon as they realize he's a civilian, they're immediately just like, oh, fuck this shit, man. Yeah, we get to do whatever the fuck
exactly.
we want.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't know the rules. I guess let's run through the students, shall we? We got Donnie Benitez, played by Lilo Brancato Jr., who most people will know either from The Sopranos
or Bronx Tale.
We're kicking him around. I haven't heard any of your suggestions yet. A Bronx Tale, maybe on my list. Another cable classic. Watched it on TNT many a night.
Oh, yeah.
Back at the old... like Sandy Trace house time frame. I was watching Bronx Tale, so I was like 6 or 7? Does that sound right? Like 2nd or 3rd grade, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This was like the Dawson's Creek era.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But A Bronx Tale would be on TNT periodically, and I definitely pieced it together over time. Yeah, haven't been back to it in a while. I think we mentioned this on the previous episode. Not that we need to reiterate it, but Stacey Dash, is Private Miranda Myers. Good old Kadeem Hardison.
Oh yeah,
Dwayne Wayne himself from Different World.
Montgomery.
He is Montgomery Jamal. Yes, and Richard T. Jones, one of my faves. If I had to. He's one of those guys in my head. He's been in everything, but I'm looking right here on IMDb. 2 most known for, and the ones that do pop into my head: Phone Booth.
Yeah,
he's got a pretty. He's kind of like the second to Forrest Whitaker.
Mm-hmm.
He's out there first on the scene, and also playing another cop in Collateral. A very brief scene, but he's the guy who stops them, and it's like if they open that trunk, they're going in that trunk.
Yeah.
And Jamie Foxx has the awkward interaction with it. Yeah. But he's fantastic. Khalil Kane is Roosevelt Nathaniel Hobbs. We'll get more into Hobbs in a bit. I don't know where else you know him from, but you know where I know him from, bud? You told him to play the boxer gay?
Yes.
That episode of Friends where Joey wants
and it
the
worked.
part. And yes.
And it worked.
Yes, and he actually gets the part.
Yes.
Great stuff. Oh, damn, dude. That's a bummer. The only guy who doesn't have a further IMDb page is Peter Simmons, who played Brian Davis Jr. He's the one with the veteran father
yes.
who everybody doesn't believe the story of.
Right.
Which, again, I did... Sorry. I assume we're not going in any particular plot order. I didn't really understand, like, one of the many subplots is that none of them believe him that his father was a hero in Vietnam. They're all just like, no, dude, he just died. It's not a big deal. And DeVito goes and romances Ann Cusack, who's introduced way too late in this movie, by the way. I could fix the movie very quickly if you introduce her from the get-go.
She's the first person he meets on the base. Boom, it's done.
Oh, I thought you were about to say, like, he did meet her at first. Did you not catch that? And I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, but it's like, it's that.
She should have been his introduction liaison or something like that. Or whatever. They should establish a relationship so that, he has those... There's a few beats where it's like, they end class, and then he kind of sits there and he's like, teaching these guys Shakespeare, like, just talking to himself. Where I'm like, dude, give him somebody to, like... If he was out on a date with her and they could hash out, like, yeah, here's my struggle with the kids. And she's like, well, you don't really understand the military. And she's like,
Right, they do this, they do that.
It's right there. Yeah. And I'm like, it's a little cliche.
And this guy, Gregory Hines, is on my ass. What can you do? Well, here, Bill, I'm going to teach you how to give it back to him.
I'm going to teach you to get in shit. Exactly, dude. I'm sorry. We just made the movie way better.
Yeah.
And I understand at a certain point, it's a little cliched, right? Well, the movie's a little cliched because it's an inspirational teacher drama. But here's the thing. If you're not going to introduce her from the get-go, that whole subplot of like, hey, he found a girl at the end, by the way, like, doesn't even need to be. I don't need it.
Right.
I don't need it. And it's literally like an hour and 35 minutes before they even introduce her. And they're like, all of a sudden they're flirting.
And to not even have the ex-wife character?
Before you know it, they're eating at Burger King on base.
Oh, dude,
And it's the exact same aesthetic as the one that we went to in Japan.
Yes, don't even start with me, dude. You see why I go back to this thing so much?
Well, and the fact that, like, when I was in my research, I was like, I remember there's some sort of Fort fucking Jackson, dude. It's literally, it's one of those.
They don't even
Carolina
hide,
movies.
dude. You can see all the insignias of Jackson in that base. And it's like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those.
Pretty sure we've eaten at that Burger King.
Yes, at least twice.
Yeah.
I mean, we really didn't make it up to the Army base that much, but, it is what it is.
It's true. I mean, I mainly mean more in, like, college era when it's like I would go on base to get stuff tax-free because I didn't feel like driving all the way back to Sumter and stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Anyways.
I don't think you know what? That kills me, dude. I didn't take that kind of advantage of Fort Jackson when we lived up here. I think I went to get Anthony's
can't
like
take
twice.
advantage of any of it now because we've aged out. But yeah,
and they don't have Anthony's Pizza anymore, so who cares?
Okay, let me. I did get a little sidetracked by talking about. Okay, but anyways, he goes and gets these records from her, right? What was preventing the son from asking for access to these records or like somebody look? I didn't understand what was going on there. I didn't understand why it took DeVito to like confirm this revelation for the kid.
I think it was like the kid just joined. He joined because of his dad. And like when he was like done and could do that kind of stuff, because I mean, they're all privates. They just got here.
Right.
They just got their haircuts. Which Stacey Dash doesn't have her haircut though, which is kind of weird. They don't make her cut her hair.
Well, there's also I'm wondering if that's a movie thing or if they also constantly want her to take off the top half of her uniform and just have the brown like undershirt, which I mean, you want to be weird about it, but you're like, I mean, it's Penny Martin, female director. I guess it's kind of okay, but you're also like, is there a fucking producer in her ear being like, we got to get it to show the tits a little bit more? Can she take off the top? It's like that would never. Now, granted, they're with a civilian and stuff or whatever, but it's like. But if any of her superiors walked into that classroom and saw her out of uniform, she'd be fucked. She'd be in like...
Yeah, she'd be in a lot of trouble. Yeah, she'd be
in trouble.
Exactly.
She'd have stern Gregory Hines yelling at... I don't know if you saw in the trivia. You know who was originally offered that role?
Bing Rames.
Fucking Bing Rames. Completely changes the dynamic of the movie. Completely changes it, dude.
The only difference would be that I would not want Bing Rames to just start tap dancing out of nowhere.
I'm sorry,
because that's all I want from Gregory Hines.
I
just want him and DeVito to do a duet tap dancing all along that wooden big like thing that he rappels off of. The Victory Tower.
Movies are a web. They are a spider web. I love the idea that Ving Rhames is like, nah, I can't do Renaissance Man. I actually had a part written for me in this Tarantino movie, which DeVito was a producer on, by the way.
Yeah.
That's like part of the reason Pulp Fiction even got made is the Jersey Films like portion of it. And the idea that in the same year that Pulp Fiction happens, Danny DeVito's like, well, I produced that. That was pretty cool. Meanwhile, Renaissance Man does not even make back half of its budget.
Nope. It's forgotten.
Ving Rhames goes on to this iconic part in that where it's like, he would have elevated. I like Gregory Hines, but it's literally, she says it in interviews. She's like, I thought he was too nice. I'm like, he is too nice. I don't buy Gregory Hines as like this stern fucking drill sergeant at all.
Would you buy Gregory Hines as Marcellus Wallace? Switch the roles. Just switch the roles and see what happens.
I was gonna like attempt to do a Gregory Hines voice, but I don't even know what that is. But again, like I like him in this, but yeah, it removes any kind of like actual dramatic stakes because you're like, it's fucking Gregory Hines, dude. Like they're gonna spat with each other, but it's like I'm not. There's a moment when he gets pulled into Cliff Robertson's office, Uncle Ben, by the way, who's like, I gotta bring you in and talk to you for a minute, and he's like, he could have killed you.
He would have killed you, Bill.
And I'm sure, yeah, he could have killed you, Bill. We're on a military base, but he could have killed you before somebody got to him. And I'm just like, Gregory Hines, really? You think he's just gonna fucking straight up ice Danny DeVito?
Tap dancing on your face.
To be fair, lots of people could probably take out DeVito if they wanted to.
I love that they ask him about his military thing. He's like, I marched in anti-war. And like the IMDb trivia says, like he's 4'2", he would not be allowed in the army at all. It's like
he
okay,
didn't have a choice in whether he could serve.
But that's the whole point. Is like someone in the army would look at him and be like, "Of course he was never in the military. Right. Are you fucking stupid?" Like,
it was stupid that they asked.
What would you? That's a shit question to ask somebody like that.
He a little shrimp. He a little fucking.
That's just being rude, man.
It is being rude.
He's coming on your base.
I didn't finish the 8. Sorry.
You got Private Melvin?
We got 2 more. Yes, Melvin. Dude, Gregory Sporletter, shout out to this guy as well.
Everything,
that guy. He's in The Rock. He's in Twister as well.
Say Anything, True Romance.
Dude, of course Say Anything. I forgot. He's one of the fucking gas station dudes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in Black Hawk Down. He's in...
Dude, just... I'll rely we never stopped working. Dude, he's Coach Romano in fucking Never Been Kissed, dude. Did you already say that one?
No, I didn't even think about that. I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that.
He's in Bing John Malkovich. Yeah, dude, just all over the place. Shout out to that guy, Gregory Sporletter. A total that guy. I will never remember that name.
No,
it's never going to stick in my brain. Nope. Oh, and excuse me to bring, because everybody was on it apparently in this movie. Friends. He is Phoebe's health inspector boyfriend in one episode.
Right.
Who she's like, this is so hot because he can shut down restaurants and then they have no place left to eat.
Yes.
And then last but not least, Private Tommy Lee Haywood. Played by Marky Mark.
I was saying, little actor named Mark Wahlberg.
Now here's the question: do we try to do the Waxahoochee? What's
Willacoochee,
Georgia? Do we try and go his version of a fucking Southern accent, or do we just talk like fucking Marky Mark like we always? Hey, bro, I gotta find it. Excuse me.
Say hello to your mother for me.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Where do we go with it?
I don't know. We could do.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Not honestly outside of like them calling Haywood a dumbass, the inherent tension between him and Kadeem Hardison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can imagine why, I suppose.
Right.
And them kind of like ragging on the dude because of his made up story about his dad. There's not a lot of like infighting between the group. And unlike a lot of inspirational stories, there is that one person who can't go along, but it's not because of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I guess I would put him in the maybe the Donovan category.
Yes,
Donovan from Only the Strong.
Oh yeah.
Only real listeners know, but only real 90s kids, late 80s.
We have talked about
it.
We've talked about Only the Strong on this
We've
podcast.
referenced it many a time.
We've never done it.
We've never done a proper episode.
Bro, we have to do Only the Strong.
I got the DVD you got me for Christmas still down there, uncracked.
We have to do that and The Pest in one sitting.
Okay.
Give it some time, but we have to do that. If we're going to ever stop 2x2, that has to be the last one we do.
Yes. And Only the Strong.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, so that's another thing I forgot. Whereas like, there's not the shitty person who's like constantly resistant to it, who like bails and then like wants to come back, sort of thing.
Right, like the Coach Carters and the
I was trying to think of like reference points. So he's trying to just. They don't give him any kind of like syllabus or any particular thing. It's just like. Make them smarter.
It's literally just the fact that they are semi-illiterate. They just need basic They need to be able to read something, understand what it means, and articulate it back. And from everyone's backstory, you get like, okay, yeah, this is a small subset of kid that would have fallen through every single crack. They got nothing doing, so they join the army.
Single best scene in the movie. And this is also... This is where it kind of announces itself to you. Like, if you thought this was going to be like a laugh riot sort of comedy or whatever, or wacky, outrageous military comedy with Danny DeVito at the center of it, no, this is firmly a, because there's two ways to go with this. He could have come in, it's like, they're constantly at odds and he's got to like tame them, but it's like, I feel like then it has to be like rated R or something. It has to have some sort of like raunchy element.
Exactly.
To it.
Like it has to be a lot of like hijinks and like them playing jokes on him and like him trying to get back at them, and then like he wins one of them, one of them over individually. Yes,
I think this is like leaning a little bit on just like, well, you know what'll be funny? I guess this is my Penny Marshall voice. Danny, you're just so small. If we put you next to soldiers, it's inherently funny. So, I think they were banking honestly on like the sight gag of this small man, this egg of a man, next to all of these giants in combat.
Humpty Dumpty sitting on a wall.
I'm like, I think they genuinely were like, well, that's the solid laughs right there, and we don't really have to deliver much of a script beyond.
You know what was really funny, Danny? When you were in Twins with Arnold, and Arnold,
people loved it.
People loved it.
Fucking loved it. It was huge.
You were a sleazeball, but hey, you know what? Doesn't matter. This one you're gonna play in every man.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think people weren't expecting that energy from him, and I think he's totally fine in this. Everybody's good for the most part. I think it's just a little half baked. It's a little too many characters, a little too many subplots, and like trying to kind of have a payoff for everybody built into it.
Right.
Some of which work better than others. I just think it's a little long in the tooth. For Veronica's money, a little too much Shakespeare. She felt like she didn't. Well,
easy.
But here's what she's saying. She's like, I felt like it was a lot of Shakespeare, but me being unfamiliar with like those specific passages and stuff, because it's like at one point she was like, oh, so is that Hamlet too? I was like, no, that's Henry V.
Right.
Like, no, they're now like he's quoting something completely different. The kind of point of that big scene is like, yeah, he taught them Hamlet, but they're now inspired to go and like read and do their own thing. They also went and they go and see Henry V.
He takes them out post.
See Hamlet, they see Henry V.
Yeah, they do the same Christmas Day speech in Henry V. Yeah.
Yes. So she felt like not being familiar with some of those, that for as much as there was in the movie, it didn't help her learning or comprehension about those stories themselves. You know what I mean? It was like you had to kind of have a working knowledge of all of this stuff if it hadn't been taught to you already.
Right.
But yeah, and I feel like they nailed. She felt like it was a lot of Shakespeare, and I don't know if that's necessarily her bag. And again, she did not get her laughs. She did not get her solid laughs from Danny DeVito. What else do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about life in the streets, Noah.
Okay.
I want to talk about why we have to listen to Life in the Streets.
Yes. Okay. The big dramatic, like we said, there in all of these stories, there's got to be the one person who can't come along for the inspirational journey.
Right.
Somebody's got to be left alone. And unfortunately, in this case, it's one of the most promising young individuals.
Yes. Nathaniel Hobbs.
Yes. And James Remar, okay, excuse me, he presents to DeVito and is basically like, I think this kid's got something.
He's a candidate for officer school.
Like so he goes and talks to Remar and is like, hey, like, I think this kid's not, like, remedial. I think, like,
he's not dumb like he says he is.
He's pretty smart. There's something going on here. So like literally like a scene later, it's like
they're all in the mess hall.
Yeah. Does he get arrested in the mess hall?
They come and they tell him, "Son, you need to come with us," and they stand up.
Because initially
and they march him out. Because you're wondering like, what's going on? Why are they coming for DeVito? Because maybe he pissed off Gregory Hines again,
right?
But they come and they take him away.
And Remar is like, you were right. There was something. He was selling crack.
Yeah.
He had a crack dealer before this. He had a felony. He was running away. Fake name, blah, blah, blah.
Figure he could hide out in the army.
So he gets taken out of his bunk, essentially. All he really says to DeVito is like, it is what it is, man,
Yeah. But they're playing this
and then we get
life in the streets.
Life in the streets, it ain't easy. Yeah. That's how we live it. Anyways.
You do hear Marky Mark rapping in the background.
I did not catch that when I was watching it last night.
Oh, dude,
I only realized he was part of it when I went and watched the video because they cut out the intro portion of the song appropriately. Because if all of a sudden in the middle of Renaissance Man, it opened with, yeah, I know what you're thinking. This is some Janet Jackson type shit. But I ain't down with that. And I'm like, dude, you're not down with Janet Jackson? What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? I'm already on edge. Where are you going with this? And he's like, it's about real life, about the street trauma. And I'm like, the trauma you inflicted on that Vietnamese guy and those groups of black kids that you called the N-word and threw bottles at when you were a fucking overprivileged little gangster teenager running around? Your older brother's fucking dancing his ass off.
You dropping your pants every stage you go on?
You lace skirt Irish motherfucker.
You lace skirt Irish motherfucker.
That's probably really, really right. We are part Irish, though, I guess.
Yeah, we are.
It's all right. Anyways. But yeah, so Life in the Streets has Mark Wahlberg and little Ital Joe, I think, inform us. It ain't easy.
It ain't easy at all.
So anyways, he gets arrested. DeVito's
just in that scene. You can hear him say, "Do some things that he never should have did." Like you can hear him say that.
It's like he's trying to make amends for the incidents I just mentioned. Like in this song, almost he's like.
But it's also like as the kid's getting arrested.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this video incredible. Let's stop and talk about the video for 2 seconds. So I'm going down the rabbit hole. I realize it's Marky Mark. I'm like, oh God, I gotta go listen to this. Start watching the video, which is incredible. It is essentially an origin story of Hobbs and how he got there, told in music video form. Mm-hmm. I will point out, they said he was selling crack.
It's definitely cocaine.
When we see this drug bust, it is like 100% pure Mexican, like Colombian cocaine. It's packed. It's like Scarface level shit. Yeah, honestly,
you're doing it under a bridge overpass
in broad daylight.
Yes,
the undercover cop is just all of a sudden like, "Here's my badge." It's just
after he's giving him a huge wad of cash.
Yes, throws the whole briefcase. We get a nice and it's shot like B-roll footage from Miami Vice or something,
right?
But like just trash. It looks horrible. Okay. Right.
And then they glazed and filtered it with like a dream filter.
And we're getting the story, and the whole time because I didn't get a good look at him, I was like, "Is this the same? Is this Khalil Kane? Like, is this him in it?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, it is." Because I'm hearing the narration, I'm like, "Wait, this is weird." Because it's like Wahlberg saying like, "Did some things that I never should have did." And you're showing this young black kid, and I'm like, "What are we do? What's going on here?" And then I was like, "Oh, it literally is the actor from the movie." They're tying it together visually. But imagine you have no awareness of Renaissance Man.
No.
But you're a Marky Mark fan at the time. You like good vibrations. You like to feel it.
Yeah.
Feel it. Okay? He drops his new single. The video's on MTV or something. You're checking it out. You're watching this story go along, and this kid gets arrested for selling drugs, and he goes into jail, and then all of a sudden, he's gonna go to the army. Oh, okay. Now there's this victory tower. Okay, he rappelled down a tower. All right. Danny DeVito just pulled up a random spot in this music video just to like read a letter on screen? If you have no connection to the movie, you're just like, why the fuck did Danny DeVito just show up in this video like 3 minutes into it?
I love the guy
dying. I was just laughing hysterically.
I love the guy who knows that and doesn't think that like it's part of a movie. Because what people forget is like this is a storied history of your song for the movie. It's gonna have clips from the movie in the music video.
100%.
And they don't do that anymore, and I wish they did still.
I just love that it's married with, but we also put this other narrative on it. But we couldn't afford the same cameras for it, so the footage looks completely different. The reenactment, if you will, the origin story is terrible. It's horribly staged, and then it's all intercut with this like overly earnest Wahlberg lines, which even in that period of time, I'm just like, I don't know how seriously I would have been able to take it, and I don't know how big those incidents were. It's the world we live in now. It's like it's gonna get brought up because it's like, hey, anytime he does anything, it's like, hey, just remind people, by the way, he did do these things, and then applied to be pardoned for them in like 2016. Never got pardoned, by the way, but it is what it is. He clearly, made amends, tried to be a better dude, etc. But it's an interesting little slice of like this. At the time, this is how he was like rehabilitating his image. Was like, I'm not feeling it anymore. I'm talking about the streets and like the homeless struggle, etc. Also, don't understand. There's a big shout out. This is for all the homeless people living on the streets, struggling, blah blah blah, all this different stuff. And I was like, all right, and Marky Mark is the guy to like deliver this message. It was just, I don't know.
Well, if you remember, Noah, aren't they talking about him in Clueless, where it's like if Marky Mark could stop dropping his pants or something like that?
Yes.
I can't remember what the joke is.
They're trying to get him for like a celebrity charity video, something like that. You want to talk about Clueless instead of Renaissance Man? I'm just kidding. Okay,
we can talk about Stacey Dash some more, which we've kind of already covered.
Yeah,
but essentially, that Hobbs gets kicked out of the army and goes to prison,
and that's pretty much the end of his story. Write him a letter,
and he's like, "Oh, hey, I found Othello. That's crazy. Shakespeare wrote about a black guy all those years ago. Maybe when I get out, I can do Shakespeare in the Park or something. I don't know. He didn't say that, but
basically, I mean, he teaches them Hamlet. We build to an ending that is completely absurd and makes zero sense whatsoever.
Which is what?
The end where he essentially is told by James Remar, hey, just sign this thing. It says they completed the course. And we're good. And you served your purpose. And you got paid. And your job's over now, essentially. And he's like, I'm not going to sign this. You can't give him a test. And then all of a sudden it's like, guys, I mean, I know this is the army and everything. But like, did you guys not sit down at the beginning of this and like, here are the rules and regulations. Here's the curriculum. Here's the time frame. Here's what, like, anything. Literally anything.
No, that's called government oversight. It doesn't matter whether or not he gave him a test. They got the money from the government to pay him. They just got to have something saying he signed off on it.
Exactly.
That's it.
And so they're basically like, yeah, it really doesn't matter whether they did the thing that you were sent here to help them do at all. They're in. Or something. Refuses to, but then he has to go tell them, okay, I'm sorry, this makes no fucking sense. If you take the test and you pass it, you're all good. All right, tracks, makes sense. If you take the test and fail, you're out. You're out of the program. It's done. But if you don't take the test at all, and so I'm like, okay. Ultimate ending is about like choosing the confidence and like challenging yourself, etc. All of that stuff, knowing that you can do it, which they're inspired to do after the big St. Crispin speech and everything out on the field when Gregory Hodge is like, you know what he Shakespeare?
But he does.
Yes.
Give me some of that Shakespeare.
Yes. So I get in principle the kind of like, it feels like it's struggling for like an ending.
Don't do it for me, do it for yourself.
Yes, do it for yourself, empower yourself. That's what I've taught you, you know.
Paddle your own canoe.
Yes. But it's like, Remar says to him, but if they fail, they're out, like it's so serious all of a sudden. And I'm like, but dude, you just said that these grades don't matter. So you could still sign off on saying they passed it regardless, that they completed this thing. They're like...
Government
but
oversight.
Then they just, they make there be a fail state in it that doesn't need to be there. I understand you're trying to inspire them, and lo and behold, they all show up, they take a verbal exam where they just reiterate everything they've been doing in the class and everything. It's like, of course everybody passes. It was going to be pass-fail anyways. Did you really think anybody wasn't going to? There's no drama inherent in it or anything like that.
Just like Melvin forgets a word. Melvin, come on, man. He fell asleep. It's like, sorry, Melvin, you failed.
Yeah,
gone.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I just, like it was trying to inject some stakes all of a sudden, but there were really no stakes.
Right.
Because they had just removed them by saying that, like, well, they're all in anyways. You know what I mean?
Well, the stakes are their lives after they get out of basic and have to go. Are they going to be able to read and comprehend orders when they're in the desert? That's the stakes.
Unlike in the bedroom where we talked about all the things that happen off screen, I'm going to say that you're not allowed to bring post-movie shit into this, all right? But no, I agree. Like, again, dude, I think as an inspirational teacher movie, it has its moments. I love the Hamlet of it all. Yeah. And I think that, the best scene other than Here's How We All Got Here, which I think is great, well acted, and a very true to life also, from what I know of a lot of like military people in general. Mm-hmm. And I like seeing like all the swaps of like, not everybody follows the same path to get here. Everybody comes here for different reasons, but do have common goals in some cases.
Well, that's what he realizes is like they're here for the same reason he's here.
Yeah.
They ain't got no jobs. They ain't got no prospects.
Exactly.
Neither does he.
Yeah.
He had it all and he lost it. He's like, Iggy, what if I lose this power? You know? But
check out our previous 2x2 on Surf Ninjas. We did that.
And I mean, I guess it's just, like I said, Brian Davis Jr., having had time in the military, would probably have been able to find these records himself. But again, this is before computers, so God knows where the records are.
You're doing a decent job of talking me out of like some of my plot holes and issues. I wanted a few more laughs. Mm-hmm. Period. Dot. End of statement. I still think either get that Ann Cusack character out of here or introduce her early. And I say introduce her early because I fucking love Ann Cusack, dude. She's good in everything. Yeah. Why not? Okay?
You forgetting about like the Jackson Leroy, like the whole, I'm never going to have my kid pick up a football ain't going to do shit for nobody. His wife is pregnant. All that stuff. You get every single walk of life in here.
Yeah, I circle back around my head to what I think that intro scene where they tell while they're there is probably the best scene in the movie. I think the second best and the closest it really comes to like I can see why DeVito is actually like perfect in this moment. And it also leads to one of my favorite line deliveries from old Marky Mark. Okay? He's passing out the roles for who's going to play who in Hamlet. And they get around to the one with the dad. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting.
Brian Davis Jr.
Brian Davis Jr., thank you. And they're going to make him play the queen. And Wahlberg says, now, Bill, you and I both know that a man playing a woman is just plain filthy. It's just the delivery, dude. Just plain filthy, Bill. Like, I also love the runner that he called. I mean, some of them do as well, but Wahlberg calls him Bill throughout this entire movie. Some of them call him Mr. Rago or Billy or Shakespeare.
Billy Boy, yeah.
Billy Boy, all this different stuff. But Bill? Bill. It's just, I love it, dude. It's so funny.
It's like that's the first line he read was when he called him Bill, and every other line of the script where it's Mr. Rago, whatever, he just written and wrote Bill on every copy of his script.
This is what I'm bringing to the table. He's like, yes, men used to play all the parts, and then he starts doing female soliloquy, and he's really into it, and he's like trying to basically seduce all of the dudes in the room. And it's like, you don't remember the scene?
I do, yeah. No.
Yeah, I'm saying. But that's, like, you're looking at me like, what the fuck is he
No,
about?
I'm getting, yeah.
I'm like, that is when, like, DeVito comes alive, and you see the, like, the theater actor side of DeVito and everything, where you're like, yeah, he can fucking crush Shakespeare. Like, this is great. He's, like, inspiring them with this moment. It totally plays. Really love that scene as well. Excuse me. I'm losing my voice on this one. You know why?
We're at 3 hours?
We've been going for 3
Hell yeah.
hours.
We spent a lot of time in the bedroom, didn't we?
We did spend a lot of time in the bedroom.
Jesus Christ.
I had some more thoughts on Marky Mark. Oh. You know when IMDb trivia, it's like, this is not trivia. Like, what the
yeah.
This is just a statement. Like, what is this? There's this whole, let me read it.
Is it the bit about them not letting him sing or like making fun of him having like no rhythm and stuff,
dude.
But he was really a rapper? It's like, that doesn't really matter at the point.
Throughout the movie, the recruits treat Private Haywood as if he has no rhythm, leaving him out of their rap song and making fun of him when he's trying to keep a beat on his desk. In real life, Mark Wahlberg was a professional rapper. And I'm just like, yes, but in this movie, he's playing a character who is not a rapper.
That's just like something somebody noticed and was like, huh, that's funny, isn't it? It's like, great, it should be trivia. It should be like, nice observations.
Well, and
IMDb observations.
And so I'm rewatching it last night, and in my head, I'm like, dude, he's probably like, he's in that in-between. He's trying to transition into acting, wants to be taken seriously as an actor.
Because what's next? The Basketball Diaries.
Basketball Diaries. We got Fear right around the corner. And before too long, you know what? Dirk Diggler.
Yeah.
Still the best thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
By a long shot. Departed's maybe a close second. And we've talked about him a lot.
Third,
he is,
Pain and Gain.
What?
Pain and Gain, third.
Oh, yeah. I'd go with that, actually.
Yeah. I'll give you Boogie Nights. I'll give you that. But Pain and Gain's a third.
He is the epitome, probably more so than any other actor I can think of. If he's got good material and a good director, that dude's a fucking movie star.
Yeah.
Lightning in a bottle. When he's got just okay material, he's all right.
Who?
Wahlberg.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't have that consistency.
He rises to the occasion of what script he's presented. If he's given Renaissance Man, he'll be a weird accent. You can't take your eyes off him. Whatever it is,
but it is literally.
But like he rises to the occasion of whatever the script is.
The quality of his performance is 100% dictated by the quality of the material. Is what I'm saying. I don't think he elevates bad material. I think it's just whatever.
No. I'm saying like it's the quality. It's like the quality of the material and who's directing, because it's like he's one of those guys that it's like, okay, how much do I got to turn it on? Do I got to do enough? Oh, okay, this is it's a PTA thing, and it's gonna be this. Okay, I gotta step it up. Oh, this is Michael Bay. I can dial it back. Oh, wait a minute, it's not a Transformers.
I think 100%. Well,
yeah,
I think he's dialed in Pain and Gain. I didn't see the four. You haven't made me do those yet. So.
No, not yet.
Yeah. Anyways, and obviously he popped from this movie a bit too. He is one of the. It's hard to remove knowing that he goes on to the career that he's had.
Right.
If it's like when you watch this, you're like, oh, I could see that. Or if you're just like, oh, it's popping for me because I know this is Mark Wahlberg. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to put myself in the headspace of like when I would have watched it back in the day or at the time, if he leapt out at me or not. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I feel like the movie, or at least in Penny Marshall's head, Lilo Brancato Jr.
Yes,
is the star, the one she wants to like elevate out of this ensemble, because she lets him do De Niro impersonations, Pacino impersonations, And he gets the big giant speech at the end, which I was like, could have honestly been anybody. And I didn't necessarily get the significance of it being him. You know what I mean?
Well, it's because he had the worst time getting there.
I guess, yeah. You could
because
say he was
the bullet was meant for him, but it hit his sister just the same.
Oh, excuse me. He does have the most tragic backstory.
Right.
100%.
And I mean, his impression gets him into A Bronx Tale the next year to be in that movie.
You just read the trivia wrong, so.
What is it?
Bronx Tale is 93. Bronx Tale is before this. He got cast in Bronx Tale
because of the impersonation
of De Niro.
Yeah. That's why they're letting him. That's what I mean. It's like that's why they're letting him do all that.
But
because that's what he came from, and that's how
what
he.
I'm saying though. But that's also what's kind of weird is it's like this is almost like shtick that they're just like. It's like she's basically saying, "Hey, this is the next De Niro."
Yeah,
that's the vibe you get from it.
Do the Bronx Tale thing. Do your De Niro. They'll love it.
But it's like, why? Yeah, we're doing a lot of impersonations,
right?
Like where it's just like I would also like a little bit more of like an actual character as well,
right?
But yes, admittedly, he does have the most intense backstory. So, any other things that stood out for you? Really?
Just it was.
I mean, he gets it together at the end.
He gets it together.
Telescope, a big ass telescope.
Oh,
like a huge. I've never seen one that large.
No,
very large telescope.
Almost as big as he is. I'm sorry.
Probably about as tall. Yeah.
I had to. He gets everything works out. He gets the records. He makes sure that kid gets acknowledged in front of everybody
his
at
father
graduation.
Gets acknowledged at the graduation. Great scene. And Gregory Hines gets, the beauty of Shakespeare wins him over because at first he's trying to be a prick and be like, "Oh yeah, you guys have been learning this for weeks, but did any of you actually retain it or comprehend it?"
What's Shakespeare going to do when you're getting shot out on the field? Like you're here to learn how to fly, fight, kill, whatever. Yeah. I don't need you worrying about Shakespeare while you're doing it because, you just need to know how to take orders and comprehend that, like, when I say something, do it, not why do I want you to do it?
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. But it's all comes full circle at the end where, like, what is he doing? He's signing up for another 6 months. He's coming back for it. He's going to be the next round. I'm just saying, we could make a sequel.
Dude.
Renaissance Man 2.
Electric Boogaloo. I'm there.
More 100%. Shakespeare to do. That's it.
Much to do.
Renaissance Man 2. Much ado. There we go.
Much ado about Renaissance.
We didn't even talk about my favorite bit.
I know we're missing something. Yes, please.
The Leroy Jackson's like, you ever heard of Leon Battista Alberti? No. Who was that? Who's a Renaissance man. Well, you know what? He could do everything. Yeah. Well, you know why I remember his name? Why? They say he could stand in front of a man and jump, put both feet together and jump all the way over a man and land on his feet on the other side. But if he couldn't have done all that, he could do all that stuff and be a Renaissance man. But if he couldn't have done this one athletic thing, I wouldn't remember his name. Mm-hmm. Oh, so he was kind of like a smart jock. Yeah, Leroy. There you go. I just like that. I like movies where they say the name of the title in the movie. And I love that they shoehorn it in with like, oh yeah, he was a Renaissance man. And this lets you know that just like the guy he's talking about, Bill Rago is a Renaissance man. Yeah. He can do everything. He's a madman.
He's a Shakespearean actor and professor.
And performer and professor. And,
I will also point out what's even classier is when you don't quite say the name of the movie in the movie. Allah, when you get two lobsters in a bedroom, he says in a bedroom, not in the bedroom.
Yes.
He says when you get two lobsters in a bedroom. He throws it away, dude. It's like I'm setting up the whole metaphor of the movie for you right here in the first 10 minutes, which a lot of movies do, but I'm throwing it away.
Yeah, we gotta get just like we got to do with these lobsters, you got to throw them away.
As opposed to Renaissance Man, where it's like an hour and 45 minutes in, and it's like, dude, people are going to be asking, what the fuck is this title about? I don't get it. So we got to put that in there, for the New York crowd.
For the New York crowd. Oh, man.
Anyways, I'm trying to start some feuds or something. There's some kind of traction going.
Well, you picked a nice one to start with Wahlberg. I really hope that takes off for you.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Coming for you, bruh.
Such a confirmation.
Yeah. Did we miss anything else?
No, we hit all the beats.
There's the Victory Tower scene. We talked about his balls. We covered that.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
all
my
you know
really
about
only
that.
takeaway, dude. I was just like, Jesus Christ. Again, dude, for me, honestly, it just exists better in my memory. I think I remember it being funnier. I think I remember it hitting a little harder. And maybe that's a byproduct of, like, I don't know how many times I watched this when we were young. It felt like it was on all the time.
Yeah.
And
this is one you have to see before the DeVito becomes DeVito we know now. It's that simple.
For sure. I think... Yeah, because when I was a kid, he was just kind of everything. He was short.
You were taller than him, but it was funny.
Yeah, but I didn't have
when you were a kid, the height thing that Penny Marshall wanted out of this movie was funny.
Yeah,
you had no comprehension of timing, context, wordplay, whatever. It was just like, short DeVito. He's always sitting up in that high chair thing in Taxi, yelling at him. It's funny. I don't know what he's saying, but he's just funny. Look at him.
Yeah,
that's what it is. You know. And then when you were like,
it's so random that we grew up watching Taxi in Japan, but I remember stuff like, what do you do when you come to a yield sign?
Slow down.
Slow down.
What, dude?
So
fucking
funny.
Christopher Lloyd on that show, dude. Like, I
So
just,
good.
yeah. Did a beer just go
Classic.
by? I don't know what it was. Dude, I need to see who has that show to watch all of them.
It's on Hulu.
I'm
almost
gonna check
positive.
I'm gonna check it out. I want to
Okay.
I want to catch that.
I think this is the longest episode we've ever done.
I know. Can you believe it?
I mean, I should have assumed as much. It's the weirdest pairing we've ever had for a 2x2 by far.
We did actually spend, and it's crazy that it's been a good chunk of 2x2. I feel like sometimes it's like, hey, we're gonna, and then we just go on with what we've been watching, and we don't ever really. I feel like we really took a nice trip in the bedroom, and we really discovered what a Renaissance man was.
We sure did,
and we understood that life in the streets, it ain't easy.
And that's how we live it.
Hard and mean at 16, living like a beaming fiend. Out scheming for the green. Quick to kill like it's ill, I make your blood spill. I cut your throat for your goose down coat. Cause statistics show they kids with no dough ain't got no chance, got nowhere to go. That's why life on the streets is like a trifle and be